I'm desperate for someone, yeah, to donate and include pence to round it back to a full number again.
Oh yeah, it's actually getting annoying at this point.
Yeah.
It's my
Oh, hello.
Hello.
Hello. Can you? Would you like to introduce yourself, please?
Yes, hi. My name is Jordan. I am one of the co-founders of Time for Inclusive Education, also known as TIE.
fantastic.
Fantastic.
Nice to see you again, Jordan.
It's good to see you as well. Congratulations! I've been watching the live stream pretty much all afternoon, and it's been amazing.
We've had some fantastic speakers, and here you are adding to that.
Oh. Oh, it's brilliant. It's when you've done the fundraiser for us. It was just I was actually just saying in the chat before I joined the stream. It's just so uplifting. I think everyone's feeling quite a bit dispirited just now. I know that I am, and just even kind of hearing real voices and people talking about their experiences and their hopes. It's just been great. It's been such a nice afternoon.
Yeah, it's been a great just display of I'd like to think it's great for solidarity with the community. So I suppose, you know, we know you, but I think it'd be great if the audience also caught up a wee bit of what does the TIE campaign do?
Yeah, so TIE is a charity in Scotland, and our main aim is tackling homophobia, biphobia and transphobia in schools with LGBT inclusive education. So we were set up in 2015. It began as a grassroots campaign group and campaigned quite heavily for 3 years, kind of lobbying, working with members of the Scottish Parliament, civic society organisations across Scotland, LGBT organisations, to bring LGBT inclusive education to Scotland. And in 2018, after 3 years, Scotland became the first country in the world to agree to embed LGBT inclusive education across the curriculum. And our work since then has pretty much been around developing and implementing that policy area. We work with schools, we do workshops for school pupils, we do teacher training, and we provide curriculum resources. And ultimately, LGBT inclusive education for us, it's about teaching young people about LGBT history, providing them with role models that they can look to from the past and from our present. And also, you know, really embedding equalities and human rights education across all stages of Scottish education. And the reason that we think that's important ultimately is because education is the most powerful and the most effective tool that we have as a society to tackle bullying and to tackle the prejudice and stigma and stereotypes that lead to and very often lead to the bullying of young people who are LGBT or who are perceived to be LGBT by others. It's certainly an experience that I had at school, and you know that generations of LGBT people before me have had at school, yeah. So that's in a nutshell, I guess, the work that we do.
Brilliant,
Fantastic.
Sky.
I just noticed there's a bit of an echo on your end, Jordan. I've been informed to highlight that from the mods, which isn't a huge problem. I just thought I should let you know.
It might be. I'm currently sitting in my living room. My flat's kind of like open plan, so it is a wee bit echoey. Let me see if I can move somewhere. Hold on. This might be a wee bit better.
Also, thank you, Casey Explosion, for your donation earlier.
Oh, wait,
we got
are we over 2,700? We are. Does that mean I get to have raisins now? Yeah, beauty. And sorry, if people are wondering what I'm currently doing on stream, sorry, just a wee aside. this is the banker in the game who, funnily enough, runs away with all your money, and you have to hit her shell to get all your money back. I know that's very weird to see on stream, but yeah. Sorry, continue.
I have never seen this game before, and I've been obsessed since watching the stream. It just, I'm kind of weird, like when it comes to gaming. I went out and bought Assassin's Creed Valhalla today, and I've been trying to play it all afternoon, but I'm not actually as good as I thought I was. This one seems a lot harder actually than the other Assassin's Creeds.
Yeah.
It's maybe just, I don't know. I don't get a lot of time to actually sit down and play my PlayStation, so it's maybe just me that's not that good rather than the game. But yeah, this Hollow Knight looks cool. It looks funky.
It's a good laugh. I really enjoy it, and it's difficult at points, but with some perseverance, it's doable. So I suppose, Jordan, like obviously we kind of did the charity fundraiser for you a wee while ago, and what I'd be interested to know just kind of what's been happening since then, if you could kind of just recap it for everyone.
Yeah, so I guess there's positive and negative. So the positive is that we have been continuing to work with schools. We have been delivering lots of teacher trainings, produced new resources that are being used all across schools. And there's, it was LGBT History Month this month, and just the whole month, the amount of schools that when engaging with us in social media and sharing some of their work with young people in primary and secondary schools has just been so kind of enlightening and so heartening to see. And we're still members of the Scottish Government's LGBT Inclusive Education Implementation Group, so we're still kind of ironing out the final details of that implementation pathway. Yeah, kind of just every day really has been working to just ensure that this is done right, and to ensure that despite the upheaval that the pandemic has caused for the education sector, that this is still implemented and streamlined in an effective way. I guess the negative, since we last spoke, would just be, and I think everyone on the stream has spoken about it, and everyone's kind of acknowledged it and addressed it, but honestly, like just the changing climate, it feels very, very hostile at the moment, specifically towards the transgender community, and as a result of that, it's kind of widened out and broadened to what kind of feels, I don't like the word backlash, but it feels like a backlash to a lot of the progress that we've made in Scotland and across the UK and across the world ultimately, for advancing LGBT rights. And as a charity, an LGBT charity that works with schools, we often kind of find ourselves in the firing line for online abuse, online harassment, trolling, and it's just been really quite intense actually, in a way that we've never experienced in 6 years of working on this. I would say that up until late 2018, early 2019, we never got any real bad homophobic abuse online, and nowadays it's just a daily routine. Literally, like, part of my day is going to Twitter specifically and looking for things that have been said about us, because we need to document it all and kind of for things that are going on. And it's been quite nasty. It's been quite hostile, and I think ultimately it taps into, as part of our work, we try and support young people to understand what prejudice looks like, addressing homophobic, biphobic, transphobic bullying. And I think that to some extent the reason that things have got so bad or feel so bad, and the reason that it's kind of become this cultural issue that feels very much online, is because I genuinely believe that the wider society doesn't really understand what bigotry and prejudice looks like. I think that most people have the kind of stereotypical idea of, if we're talking about bigotry, or we're talking about prejudice, or we're talking about homophobia or transphobia or racism, I think a lot of people have that stereotyped idea of, you know, the people that stand in the street with the placards and, you know, use homophobic slurs, or people that are directly, you know, hostile and horrible and abusive, and those people exist. But actually, to an extent, the more concerning type of prejudice, or the more concerning type of bigotry, is the bigotry that we've seen historically used to try and disrupt progress for LGBT rights, and what that looks like is what I'd probably call kind of concern politics. So, you know, it's not necessarily, you know, we hate gay people and you're evil and blah, 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 blah. It's, you know, I love gay people, but I'm just really, really, really concerned that we're promoting the gay agenda to kids. And you can see that just now with the way we're talking about trans rights, the discourse around trans rights. You know, it's no one's actually talking about trans people as if they are real, living, breathing human beings. What's happened is the discourse is kind of morphed into, you know, this shadowy trans agenda and the trans ideology. And it's very, very similar to the rhetoric that we saw, you know, the homophobic rhetoric of the 70s, the 80s and 90s when people spoke about the gay agenda. And yeah, so I think as a LGBT schools charity trying to navigate that climate is quite hard just now. And I think, you know, that's why events like this and the fundraising and the live stream and the fact that we can come on and have a chat, and, you know, it's very much felt like a nice community spirit. And it's these kind of things that just kind of keep me hopeful.
Yeah, I mean, we're hearing some really nice comments in the chat at the moment. Spookput11 says, "It's amazing to see my little sister be educated on LGBT plus stuff, because in turn she educates my parents and the older people in my family. And it's having such an amazing effect." And I think there was one earlier, I know there's a wee bit of an echo. I think there was one earlier that was saying that they've been using Thai material to teach their teams. I think it was Glasgow Sailor. So it's great to see that it's having such a positive effect. Obviously, despite you know, obviously some of the more horrible stuff that you're dealing with. I suppose one question I kind of have, and it's unfortunately it's pandemic related, but how's Thai shifted to kind of accommodate schools during this time when people are learning from home?
Yeah, so it was obviously quite difficult, and just our day-to-day work would be, you know, actually in schools. But when the pandemic kind of began in March 2020, we immediately developed a digital engagement platform called Thai Streams, and we launched that in April 2020. And initially, our work at the beginning, because schools had been closed quite early on, our work throughout that early pandemic period was more kind of focused on community engagement. So we've done things like, you know, the LGBT history quizzes, we've done anti-bullying workshops online for young people and practitioners, and we kind of developed and produced a series of different resources that weren't just the standard kind of curriculum support materials. So one of them, for example, is a primary school e-learning activity that young people could do at home, and that looked at supporting young people to understand what discrimination was, helping them to understand what prejudice-based bullying looked like. And then more recently, since schools have been kind of following the blended learning model where young people are engaging online with their learning, we have been providing teacher training online through Microsoft Teams. And we piloted a pupil workshop online as well, which went really, really well. So ultimately, in a nutshell, the answer is that, like everyone else in the world at the moment, all of our work is happening with, you know, us sitting behind laptops and still trying to engage. But it's going really well with our teacher training. We've had still really positive evaluative feedback, and you know, we know that schools are still proactively delivering LGBT inclusive education and actually you know, using our resources. Hearing that, you know, someone from the chat has been using the resources through the pandemic is incredible and lovely, and we know that that's going on en masse. So there is a lot to be kind of really hopeful and positive about. With, you know, despite the pandemic, this work is still going on, and it's important. You know, it's ultimately, you know, we would argue that LGBT inclusive education is perhaps, you know, it's always important, but perhaps you know, more important post COVID-19, as young people moved online en masse. You know, they were exposed to the same prejudice online that many of us have spoken about on this stream, and we did a piece of research over the summer, or sorry, just before summer, during the first lockdown, where we surveyed 1,015 young people across Scotland, and what we found was that 72% of LGBT plus young people had seen more prejudice online during the lockdown period. They saw 56% of them saw homophobia, 48% saw transphobia, and then really alarmingly, 60% of LGBT plus young people had either seen or personally experienced online bullying during the lockdown, and they all reported that had been happening more than usual. And you know, ultimately, an educational approach to addressing online prejudice, to addressing prejudice full stop, and bullying behaviours, and really equipping schools with what they need to combat that, as you know, more important than ever, really.
Brilliant. I think you raised some really fantastic points there, specifically around. Sorry, I'm trying to fight a boss right now. Sky, do you have anything to add to that, please?
No, I think you are covering everything pretty well. I suppose the kind of generic question is, what can you know, members of the public do and stuff in order to help Ty's cause?
Honestly, what's, you know, really helpful for us just now is promoting our resources and our materials. So our website's tycampaign.co.uk. All of our curriculum and school resources are all publicly available. They're all completely free of charge. We don't, you know, we don't believe in charging schools money for things or charging for education materials. And what I would ask is, if there is anyone watching the live stream who, you know, is a teacher, or, you know, perhaps has a family member or a friend who's a teacher, or if they're a parent or a carer, or they've got young people in their lives, use these resources, share them, because they're so, you know, they're so impactful. And I think for me, the reason that this work is so important to me, so I'm 25 now, so still comparatively quite young, even though you know, got hundreds of grey hair since this pandemic started. I just keep pulling greys out of my head. But the reason this work is so important to me, and the reason that I'm so passionate about it, is because, you know, my experience at school was not good. I realised that I was gay when I was in primary 5 of school, and I didn't tell anyone about that. And when I was at school, you know, I'm the "that's so gay" generation, so everything was described as gay. If people didn't like something, then that was gay. You know, maths is gay, homework is gay. You missed a goal at football and PE. You're so gay. And there was a lot of kind of pejorative language about the LGBT community used when I was growing up. A lot of slurs that was very, very common. And from a young age, what all of that language use told me, you know, the signal and the message that sent to me, was that there was something wrong with being LGBT. You know, if people are describing things they don't like as gay, then it must be bad to be gay. It must be negative. It must not be okay. And I think it's hard to kind of state the impact that has at such a young age, in terms of, you know, the seeping self-hatred and self-doubt, and the absolute kind of obliteration of any self-confidence or self-acceptance that happens when you grow up in that kind of environment. And as I went to secondary school, you know, it was much more intense than it was at primary school. I was bullied from about first year of high school because other people thought that I was gay, and you know that wasn't something that I told people. And my entire I was at school till I was 18, and in my entire time at school, I didn't actually, you know, come out to the whole school. I'd come out to a select few friends, and I am in first year of high school, just kind of like really spiralled down into a really negative path, and just couldn't really envision how I could, you know, continue living if I was going to, grow up to be gay, because at that age, to me, that was just, you know, what society told me, what school told me, what the environment I was growing up in told me was that was the worst thing. You know, it's the worst insult that you could use, and if that's you that they're describing, it just filled me with so much self-hatred, and it was such a struggle to get to self-acceptance and to try and overcome the impact of that. But honestly, what done it for me was when I was about 16 or 17, I watched a documentary that I would 100% recommend to every single person in this chat. It's called How to Survive a Plague, and it's about the work of ACT UP New York during the HIV and AIDS epidemic throughout the 1980s. And I remember watching that documentary, and it was the first time that I had seen, you know, strong gay people and LGBT people fighting back against prejudice and fighting back against discrimination at, you know, one of the most darkest times in our community's history. And I just remember sitting, after watching that documentary, I immediately watched it again, and I was up till like 4 or 5 in the morning and floods of tears, because at that point I finally understood why people spoke about pride and being proud. And from there, you know, it was just, you know, I was obsessed, and I learned about people like Harvey Milk and Alan Turing and Marsha P. Johnson and Buan Temple and Sally Ride, and I learned that, you know, the first American woman in space was a lesbian. I learned that the person who helped Britain and the Allies win World War II was gay. And was prosecuted by the state. I learned about the Stonewall Uprising, I learned about the first Pride marches, and just all of that was the everything that I needed to find self-acceptance. And I just always remember thinking, why did I not learn any of this at school? My heroes at school were people like Martin Luther King and Rosa Parks and Emmeline Pankhurst. I learned so much about the civil rights movement and the suffrage movement, and really could connect with, you know, some of those people who stood up against intolerance and inequality, and I just felt really robbed of not learning about LGBT people and LGBT history, when ultimately LGBT history is our country's history. You know, it's part of our global history as a human race, and you know, when you learn about people like Bayard Rustin, who, you know, was so intrinsically involved in the civil rights movement, organised the March on Washington where Martin Luther King delivered the I Have a Dream speech. When you learn that he was gay, that he was out, he was proud, that he refused to hide who he was, you know, 1930s, 40s, 50s America, that's the kind of people that I needed to learn about at school, because I know for a fact that all of those years of torment and turbulence and really struggling to accept myself could have totally been avoided if I had just learned about people like that and known that I wasn't the only person that felt this way, that it was okay to be who I was, and that actually, you know, 50, 60, 70 years before me, there was people who were out and proud and changing the world. And you know, that's why we started TIE. That's why LGBT inclusive education is so important. And I, as I say, I'm 25. If I never achieve anything else in my life, I'll just, you know, forever be proud and grateful for the fact that Scotland is bringing forward LGBT inclusive education, and young LGBT people of tomorrow's generations are not going to have that same experience that I had at school. You know, just the impact of that is, you know, it's lifelong, and I think a lot of people don't fully appreciate or understand that. and that just kind of that generational situation of LGBT people just constantly having one thing in common, you know, with all our differences. The one thing that I found in my experience that I have in common with so many other LGBT people is a negative experience at school, you know, and it's time to just break that trend.
Yeah,
sorry, that was a huge
that was exactly what we were after. That was perfect. that is what we wanted. And Sky, you were going to say something there, and I interrupted.
The work you have done, Jordan, is fantastic. I've spoke about it a few times. You know, my coming out was at high school was very bad. I had to come out as a form of self-defense almost.
Yeah.
And I wished we had stuff like Ty when I was growing up, but I'm glad we have it now.
Yeah. I know, and I
think to be fair, I said when I was growing up, we're not that far away from age. We were growing up at the same time.
Well, do you know what's so interesting though? So like, see, you and I, Sky, I went to I entered primary 1, entered Scottish education in the year 2000, which was the year that Section 28, the law which, and scare quotes, banned the promotion of homosexuality in schools. That law was repealed in Scotland in the year 2000. So we were, you know, supposed to be the post Section 28 generation, and I've often said that it may as well have just been in place because the legacy was there, the impact was the same. I learned nothing about who I was or learned about other people like me. And to some extent, you know, it's sad that it took 18 years after the repeal of that legislation for something to actually be done about it. And it's sad as well, you know, as much as I was involved in it, and I'm so proud of the work that we've done with Ty, and that we do. I do also to some extent find it sad and a bit difficult if I think about it too much, to kind of comprehend that it took a campaign, which, let me tell you, was really, really hard and difficult, and you know, to run. And we all made, you know, Liam and I made so many sacrifices. Liam, you know, sacrificed a lot of time with his family when his daughter was 3 when he started Ty, so he missed quite a lot of her early childhood. My social life pretty much depleted. I'm like the most boring 20-year-old in the world because I was too busy worrying about getting support from MSPs and policy and whatever else. But I do sometimes find it a bit sad that it even took a campaign to get something as commonsensical as LGBT inclusive education into schools, but that taps into a wider kind of discussion on every right that the LGBT community has won. It's not, you know, they've not just been given because that's the nice and that's the sensible and that's the humane thing to do. They've been fought for, every single thing, and I think that's why, you know, probably why so many of us feel alarmed just now, because we can see all the same dog whistles and red flags that actually, you know, rights aren't something that should ever be taken for granted. That we don't have to look too far back in history to see multiple examples of rights being undone and taken away. And yeah, that'll take me into a whole other conversation.
Yeah, but like our chat pointed out earlier, I think a lot of the progress that can be made in normalizing LGBT people begins with teaching children that it's okay, because children will teach their parents.
Yeah.
Whereas obviously we can't always rely on parents to teach their children in that regard because they haven't been taught it.
Yeah, and you know, we can't escape the society that we live in and the conditioning that society kind of puts us under. Like I grew up, as I said, you know, I grew up with the idea that it was totally wrong and it was the worst thing in the world to be LGBT, and that came from society. And you know, as there's plenty of people well, I guess what I'm trying to say is no one is born with prejudice, right? No one is born disliking or hating or, actively opposing another human being because of a characteristic that they have. That's something that's learned. And if it can be learned through society, then it's something that you can use education to eradicate as well. And I just think if we want to see a fully equal, equitable, egalitarian society where people, are judged on the basis of, who they are and their character as opposed to any one characteristic that they have, then we need to have an inclusive and representative and reflective education system, and we need an education system that is kind of looking to the future of the society and the country that we want to be.
I think
Exactly,
I mean,
yeah.
one of your points there is like it can be learned. One of the other things I suppose is that the folk who did go through school, and I'm gonna hold my hand up and say that I was able to kind of unlearn this, the whole everything's gay, that means bad. I look back at me in like first year and cringe. I want to die when I think about myself in first year, because I was a wee arsehole. I would say that I was kind of glad that I kind of came out of it a wee bit sooner than my friends did, unfortunately, or my old friends. But yeah, it's definitely something that can be unlearned if you're willing to kind of listen to the people around you as well.
Yeah, it totally can, and actually, one of the best examples of that is the other co-founder of TIE, Liam Stevenson. Liam's not LGBT himself; he's an ally, and the reason that Liam, has set TIE up and has been so involved and so pivotal and really dedicated his life as well to achieving LGBT inclusive education is because he, he's a very, if you Google him, if he's listening to this, he'll murder me for saying this, but if you Google him, he's the stereotypical image of masculinity. He's very G.I. Joe, shaved head, big kind of built tank, and he grew up in kind of West of Scotland working class culture, so he himself understood that the environment, the society that he grew up in, was very hostile, and there was a lot of homophobic language and homophobic attitudes, and Liam's often spoke about how, when he was younger, he would use all of that kind of flippant, pejorative language and just not ever think twice about it, and he's said that he would never ever have been homophobic if somebody was being discriminated against or criticised or hurt around him because they were LGBT. He would have stepped in and stood up for them, but he used that language, and he describes it as just kind of like the common language of the time, which I would agree with. But it was when he met me and we had a lot of conversations that that kind of light bulb kind of switched for him, and he was able to look at his own daughter, as I said, who was 3 at the time. And when he learned more as somebody who isn't LGBT and who didn't have those experiences growing up, when he learned about the experiences that so many LGBT people have had, he'll say he said himself that he didn't want his daughter, regardless of who she grew up to be, what her identity was, to have those experiences as well. And I think it kind of takes us into a conversation around allyship too, for other people on the stream, as it's not just LGBT people's fight. Our human rights and our equality, we do need allies, because we are a minority in society, and if we want society to change, then we need other people in society to stand with us and do that. And I personally think that Liam's a good example of that.
Yeah. A family member of mine, a young family member of mine, has just recently come out as gay. And I do feel a bit more because like she's going to come to the same high school as me and everything. So I feel a bit more confident now that stuff like, you know, my own coming out experience and foundations set up by Ty are hopefully going to be there for her. Also, I think we have another speaker that's about to come on.
Cool. Jordan, you're more than welcome to stay if you'd like.
I'm happy to stay because I live on, you know, I live alone and I'm bored. But I know the speaker who's coming on, and he is absolutely amazing. I've got so much respect for him. What I'll maybe do, if it's all right, just so that I don't have to jump back onto the Twitch, I can just mute myself and sit and listen, if that's okay.
Yeah,
that would be quite all right.
Yeah, whatever suits. I am, however, going to take this opportunity to go for a pee. And I might sneak another packet of raisins.
100%. Thank you very much for having me on just before you run off. I really appreciate you giving me the time.
No, Jordan, thank you very much for telling us everything about Ty and like covering your own experiences. It's invaluable for everyone that's listening. And guys in the chat, if you could give Jordan some love, that'd be magic.
Thank you very much. Cheers.
Obviously, just before you go, Jordan, I know you're going to be on mute, but if you'd like to plug anything in particular, you could do that just now. I'm going to dive off quick.
Yeah, brilliant. So I guess if people are on Twitter, you can follow us. We're just at Tie Campaign, TIE, as in school tie. Our website's tiecampaign.co.uk. And if you fancy some light reading on your Saturday night, one of the resources of ours that I would thoroughly recommend is a resource called Icons, which I think someone in the chat says they had used. But if you want to learn any more about LGBT history or some amazing LGBT people who have come before us, then give that resource a wee read through and find your role model, find your icon.
Yeah, perfect. So that was it feels a bit weird because he's still technically in the call and can hear me. But that was Jordan Daly of the Tie Campaign. You can find them on social media around Tie Campaign. I linked to their website earlier, but I will link it again now. And how are we all doing, chat? How are we all doing today? I've seen some of you are still here from the first moment, which is absolutely lovely. Thank you for staying with us. We are just over a quarter of the way through the stream at current. We have raised £2,776.60, which is absolutely amazing. Thank you all. Thank you as well, Shooter Boy, for linking the Twitter there to the Tie Campaign. I'm just gonna go through all the generic stuff. We have some really cool speakers coming up. David Paisley is on next, who's an actor. And if you want to talk about the stream, please use the hashtag Ayequality in order to generate some social media buzz. Yeah. Fuck. I have been slowly eating my way through the same packet of onion rings since Hannah Rutherford came on the stream. I'm barely anyway through them. Because I have to eat them very slowly rather than just like vacuum them in my mouth like I would normally. Right.
Sorry, I came into that at an odd time. What are you talking about?
Onion rings.
Oh right, okay. Sorry, I've taken off the long Jedi robe. It's getting a bit hot.
I mean, it is now that you've taken off the robe.
Sharp.
Okay.
Okay, we ready for next speaker?
We most certainly are.
Let's boogie. Also, we are on 2776. That is just incredible.
It is, yeah. I was doing the whole social media, follow us all, blah blah blah, that stuff, while you were away.
And a huge thank you to Ploots Boots for the donation.
Can't say much, but incredibly great. It disappeared before I could read it.
Right, I'm trying to think of what I'm actually supposed to be doing in the game at the moment. What am I playing?
Yeah, how is the game going?
Oh, I've got no idea. I've been on autopilot for the past for the past wee while.
Are you 25% of the way through the game, do you think?
Yes, definitely 25%. I'm 100% that I'm over 25%. I'm sure.
Hello?
Hello.
Hi, would you like to introduce yourself?
Oh, hello. My name is David. David Paisley. That's my full name. Everyone seems to call me David Paisley instead of David. I think it's because there's so many Davids in Scotland. So I tend to go by my full name a lot. I'm a Twitter loudmouth, and but my actual job is I'm an actor. So I'm an actor on a few different things. But yeah, hello, hi, how's it going? Are you having a good day?
Things are going extremely well. We've smashed. I mean, our first goal was £500, and we're now on 2,786. So
oh my gosh, that's amazing.
We're doing absolutely class, and the game that we're currently playing is going okay. I think. I hope.
Yeah, I'm just watching it. I'm just kind of watching the game and trying to follow along, but I'm not really sure I understand the rules.
I mean, yeah, basically I'm trying not to die. That's about it.
Yeah. Do you know, so when I was a kid, right, I used to be a bit of a gamer. I actually wanted to be a computer programmer when I was a kid. I played a computer game for 3 days. 3 days solid. And this was in the days before Twitch, so you couldn't raise money, so I didn't raise any money doing that.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was Command and Conquer Red Alert.
Oh,
which
nice.
is quite an old game. It's a
Great
classic,
choice, though.
classic.
Absolute
But
classic.
but once you start playing it, you just can't stop, you know?
Yep.
But yeah, I wish Twitch had existed at the time, and I could have actually done it for a good cause rather than just to avoid sleeping. I was only 16 though, so I have an excuse.
David, I'm just being asked by the mods. Do you have the stream muted at current? Because I think there's a bit of an echo still.
Yeah, it's muted, yeah.
Okay. All right, perfect. Just wondering.
Not to worry.
Yeah.
So, I guess could you just tell me a bit about, or tell us, I guess, about your how did you get here into this call?
Well, I suppose there's a variety of things that we could discuss about that. I'm quite involved in Scottish politics and also in LGBT equality, and I have been for a number of years. I was kind of involved a little bit in the campaign to repeal Section 28 as an activist back in the early 2000s. My goodness. I'm as an actor. I did a show back in 1999 for a few years that was set in a Scottish nightclub, and I played a gay character in that. And that's when I came out, back in 1999. And I think I was one of the few actors, I was a teenage boy at the time. I was one of the few actors at the time who was an out gay actor playing an out gay character in a major TV show. And that kind of gave me a little bit of profile at the time, 20 years ago. And I tend to speak out quite passionately and advocate for LGBT rights whenever I can. Yeah, a passionate advocate for the rights of others. And my job is kind of a sideline. It's a side gig. Yeah.
Well,
I was listening to Jordan speaking about Section 28 and his work with the campaign, and they really do amazing stuff in schools. I'm really happy to support what Jordan's achieving. Thai campaign are really fantastic. Yeah, so that's a little bit about me. Have any questions?
I have a bunch of questions personally.
Oh.
Because as I have said a few times on stream now, I am a filmmaking student on the West Coast. So I would just love to hear kind of what the Scottish film and TV industry is like for LGBT people and to do with that representation.
Yeah, for sure.
Also, we just passed 2,800.
Oh,
excellent,
awesome.
brilliant. Well, I think film and media tends to be quite LGBT friendly. Like we that particular like profession and everyone that works in it tends to be really like open-minded. Because it's the arts. It tends to draw in a lot of people from a lot of varied backgrounds, and so you know when you work in the industry, it's not unusual to meet other LGBT people, and for producers, directors, and lots of crew and cast to identify as LGBT as well. So I've always felt like it's a welcoming environment, and especially in Scotland. Like the first things that I made were with a theatre company, and I was working with other LGBT people to make that, and so it felt like I was kind of part of a small community of creatives that the LGBT people are really part of and always kind of welcomed in. Um, so yeah, filming is fun and it's interesting. And being an out LGBT person, it was quite rare back in the day. It's really lovely to look at the industry now and see that we have so many people, young people as well, that are able to be who they are and be so publicly. To provide a bit of like identification for young people, which I think is really important. You know, so thing the industry that I work in, it's really welcoming and friendly. I think for LGBT people. I think yeah, that's been my experience anyway. I know other people probably experience things differently. Yeah. How's your course going? How are you finding it?
We're going all right. I'm in the masters now. I did the Bachelor of Arts in
Yeah.
filmmaking 2 years ago, 4-year degree. So now we're just kind of doing what we can around COVID restrictions.
Yeah,
Which
I think
is difficult.
Scotland's challenging, but just because it's a small industry, so there's not huge amounts that gets made here. So any big productions tend to be quite everyone kind of knows about them, and it's one of those industries that makes great work, but there's not a huge amount of work that happens at any one time. So a lot of we have that thing of like people moving to London in order to establish their careers, and I think that's always it's a kind of negative thing. You know, you don't want to have that like intellectual drift towards England, and we probably should support film, TV, theatre, and media in Scotland as much as possible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember I talked to one of my lecturers recently who was like, who made the slightly morbid joke of if you threw a grenade into a Scottish film and TV industry like party and meetup, you'd destroy about 2/3 of the industry.
It's probably true, but that could be nice because you know once you get your foot in the door and once you know some people that work in the industry, it can become it's quite welcoming. But then also there's a double-edged element to that because people tend to work a small group of people, and then it can be very hard to get your foot in the door. So you know that's why I think making sure there's routes of entry for people and there's lots of access opportunities for people to get into the industry. Yeah, tough industry, but it's wonderful when you actually do. You know, it's wonderful to be creative and to make film, and film can have a really important positive impact on people. So
yeah, like I realized I won't do the whole story because Chat has heard me say it 4 or 5 times now. But I realized I was bisexual because of the media that I was absorbing. Because we didn't really have
kind of true because
gay people in the town I was from.
Yeah, I thought that as well. Like, I felt really isolated and I genuinely thought I was kind of the only gay person that in Scotland. And through watching representations on media, that's how you learn that there are possibilities. I didn't know that you could be gay. I didn't know you could go out with someone of the same gender. You know, I didn't think that was a possibility. And so you can't underestimate the importance of drama and people seeing their own stories on screen. And I remember when I was a teenager, I saw a film called Beautiful Thing. I don't know if you've ever seen Beautiful Thing.
I have not. No. I'm afraid.
It's wonderful. It's written by Jonathan Harvey, and it's about 2 teenage boys who fall in love on a council estate in England. And I remember watching it, and I was like 16, 17, and I was watching it in the cinema, holding hands with my teenage boyfriend. And it's so powerful to watch a film that's exploring your experiences and telling your story on because that sense of identification and just feeling like it's yours is really important for people to see themselves reflected in our media, and especially for LGBT, historically quite poorly served by the media. and our stories are quite often overlooked.
Oh yeah.
And that also is quite a celebratory film about love and about like a really beautiful relationship. I'd recommend you watch it if you've not seen it. Really good. Like one of my
I'll add
favourite
it
films.
to the. I'll add it to the list. For me, that was Love, Simon that came out recently. I had a very
yeah.
similar experience with my partner.
Yeah, I've not watched it yet, and that's on my list of quite a few things that I need to catch up on. But yeah, didn't they make it into a TV show as well?
I think they are. I think I think it's something on that's gonna come out on Disney Plus.
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
Yeah, I've got Disney Plus recently because I've been watching a lot of WandaVision, and I'm slightly
Oh
obsessed.
yeah, me too.
So I'm kind of loving it. So yeah. In the show that I do, we have a non-binary character, and I think that's one of the first non-binary, certainly in Scottish television. That's one of the first non-binary characters that's ever been in Scottish television. Played by Kirsty Pickering. So.
For the people who do not know, do you want to tell them which show you do?
Yeah, I appear on BBC Scotland River City, so it's on twice a week. I love our show. I actually really love it. I've got a lot of time for. It's really fun to make, and the crew are really dedicated, and all the cast are really lovely, and I just really love. I just love our show. That's all I'm going to say. And Kirsty's really special. They play a character that's non-binary, and I think that's a really for the non-binary community in Scotland. There's very few people that they can say, "Oh, that's someone that's telling my story." And as I say, that's something I think that's really important for people to see themselves reflected on screen. So, yeah, tune in and check out what she's up to at some point. How's the fundraising going today? Have you found that you're surpassing your totals, aren't you?
Oh,
Yeah.
we're clearing house, for want of a better term. The generosity of the audience has just been incredible. We did start off with 500, with £500 was our first target, and the idea was that we would be, we'd stretch the goal if required. We passed £500 within the first 10 minutes of the 24 hours.
That's excellent.
And most of it was one person.
Yeah, and now we're dancing. We're less than £200 off of 3,000. What?
That's excellent. Tell me a bit about why you're fundraising.
Sky, I'll let you answer that one.
Yeah, I can take that one. After the events with in Scottish politics, specifically when it comes to trans people, we did a stream 2 years ago for Thai, for Jordan's group, and with everything that has been kind of going, for lack of a better expression, everything that's going a bit wrong in the Scottish government, especially for trans people, we figured we had a bigger platform and we should try again, and we should do another one. And start to get people talking about LGBT issues and trans issues in Scotland, and then the wider UK and hopefully the world too, because it's a very difficult time right now for anyone trans.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I think there was kind of I almost want to say there was almost a two-pronged approach to. I mean, on one hand, we wanted to make sure we were raising money for an organisation that we're going to put that money to good use, and the Equality Network obviously do a lot on the legislation side and advising. I think there was also a kind of part of us that just wanted to, actually have a concentrated event to kind of show some solidarity, because I think there's not been tons of that. Just because of the pandemic mainly, things like Pride, etc. And I know that there's been quite a lot of stuff, this month, kind of virtually in regards to LGBT history, but there's not been the same, people would be having events. I'm seeing in the chat, I just wanted an excuse to play Hollow Knight for 24 hours, but believe me, that's not the case. I don't need an excuse.
Oh yeah. Chat, you're gonna get a little story. Up until 2 days ago, I was routinely messaging me, being like, "I just can't beat the last boss. I just can't do it. I'm really nervous."
Yeah, I'm panicking.
Thank you for the donation, David. By the way.
Oh, that's all right. Oh,
thank you.
gosh, you can see that.
So,
Oh, I didn't tick anonymous. It's all right. Only teasing. What happens if you get to the boss and then you complete? Do you have to start again from the beginning?
well,
We have a plan.
We have a plan, and it involves getting the audience involved to basically make my life hell. There is a mod that I can use on this game where people who type in the Twitch chat will actually control things in the game. So that's our backup.
You're
Well-
welcoming something very dangerous into the equation.
Oh, 100%. But I think if I'll maybe die a couple of more times if I realise that I'm getting a wee bit ahead of myself.
Just throw in the towel. No, I think you're right. There is a situation that's developed in Scotland with regard to trans rights that's really important that we talk about and that we address. We've seen a lot of negativity, especially in the online world, but also in public life, where I think we have enabled a lot of very negative rhetoric to be legitimised in the public discourse. Specifically focusing on trans and non-binary people and their rights. And it's quite shocking because so much of this we felt was settled nearly 2 decades ago. A lot of rights were already established decades and decades ago, and they were really codified in things like the Gender Recognition Act. People have had the right to access spaces appropriate to their gender for decades now, and they've been doing it without a problem. And now we're seeing all this discussion, which is it's enormously negative, focusing specifically on trans people and aligning them to things that are very, very insulting and negative. And I don't want to repeat any of that stuff because I don't want to put anything negative out there into the world. We want to stay positive, but I can't imagine how stressful and difficult it is to be a trans person in Scotland at the moment. And
It's not great, I can tell you that.
yes. The environment that we've created, which is a toxic environment, is led by fear, and it's it must be so difficult and painful to be trans and to know that that's how you're being spoken about by public figures and members of the public and people online. So you're right to start a conversation about it and to try and oppose it as much as possible. I think the Equality Network also, they run the Scottish Trans Alliance, don't they?
Yes.
They do, yes.
Yeah, which is a really great organisation in Scotland. And I've spoken to trans people in England and other parts of the UK, and they're like, oh gosh, we don't have such a thing, like a really useful umbrella organisation that helps look after our rights. So it's a really valuable thing to have in Scotland, so it's a really good thing to be raising money for. So you're right, I feel like I have a responsibility as a member of the LGBT community to try and amplify other people's voices, people that aren't, given space. And I think we need to stand together as a community and support one another, because we have experienced so much progress in terms of equality for gay men like myself, and I think it's absolutely reprehensible, this idea that you might pull up the drawbridge and say, well, we're fine, but I'm just going to leave you outside. I think that as an idea, as an ideology is wrong and reprehensible. So everything that I can do to try and support other members of the community, I'm willing to do. Apart from maybe play a computer game for 3 days straight until I start to hallucinate, which is what happens, by the way.
Hey, sometimes you've just got a game,
I gave up on computer games after that because I was like, this isn't healthy, this isn't right.
you got your entire gaming fix in one sitting and you've never visited again.
But more, I actually was working in a factory overnight at the time, right? So I was going to my job in the factory. It was a mobile phone factory, and then I was coming home and playing the game during the day, and I couldn't sleep because it was daylight. Yeah. And then I have to go to my job again that next night. So I did that like 2 nights in a row, and then by the 3rd day I was like, I haven't slept. I just want to finish that. I've got a wee bit more to do.
Yeah, it's always just one more shot, one more go.
Yeah, I'll switch it off in about 2 minutes. Just complete this little bit. I've got a really important mission I'm on to finish. And yeah, I started to hallucinate, which isn't fun.
No, can't imagine it'd be too great.
No, sleep is important. Just remember to rest. That's all I'm saying.
Well, we don't get to rest for the next day.
I know.
But then again, it's not 3 days we're doing. I hope.
I don't recommend it.
Yeah.
And just a friend of mine did something similar to raise funds to go to film school. You know, we were talking about film school. He wanted to go and do a master's, and as you'll know, masters are quite expensive. So he did like a big marathon watching the program Friends. He did like a Friends marathon, watching that every single episode back to back. And I think there's about 24 hours worth of that. And I remember afterwards, he's like, "Yeah, managed to raise a lot of money, but I never want to watch that program ever again."
Yeah.
The one where I stopped watching Friends.
See,
I think David, we'd love to keep having you on for longer.
Yeah.
I'm just letting you know that we might have our next speaker ready as well, who would like to join.
For sure.
But you're perfectly welcome to stay on. We quite like having multiple speakers on so that they can bring up things that maybe I haven't thought to in the 7 hours of Hollow Knight related delirium.
I'm happy to stick around for a wee bit. I might have to get my dinner at some point. I've actually literally just had my breakfast because it's lockdown, and like I feel like the rules of time don't quite apply.
Yeah, no one has a schedule anymore. That's no worries.
Doesn't really apply.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm happy to stick around if you want to invite your other person in, and if you want me to contribute, I'm really happy to. That's fine. But if I have to duck out to get pizza, I'll let you know.
I just letting you know, you might need to boost Casey's audio when she comes in.
Yeah, that's fine.
We don't know. We'll play it by ear. But yeah, okay. we're perfectly ready.
Oh no.
Over here. Just waiting for our mod team to bring her in. So how's acting with COVID?
I haven't had to act with COVID, but
Oh no, but like with COVID as a thing.
I knew that was coming.
It's totally different. I can't tell you exactly what I've been filming because it's all secret, but I've been doing some intimacy stuff. Like, and trying to do an intimacy when you have to be 2 meters apart is really, really hard. I don't know how I can explain it to you other than, you know, if someone was going to like try and seduce you, but they can't get any closer than 2 meters. I mean, it's not easy to seduce someone.
That could be quite good for a comedy, I think.
Yeah, and we do comedy sometimes. But I think there's a lot of unintentional comedy from having to maintain that distance. And on set, you have, it's like you do, I call it the dance of COVID, right? Because there's quite a lot of bodies on set, but you almost have to maintain 2 meters distance. So everyone's kind of dancing around one another and all the time. Which is really important because it means we can film in a way that's safe. But yeah, the actual performance side of things, it gets quite, it looks okay on screen, but it's the way it feels for the actor, it's quite challenging. But you know what, it's not really about how we feel. It's more about what the audience sees. So you have to accept that a lot of it is only made up. And it is just pretend. So, you know, you just have to go with it.
Brilliant. Yeah. I believe we've been joined by Casey. Hi, Casey.
Hello there. How are things?
Things are going swimmingly. How's your day been so far?
Pretty. Meh. Didn't do much of anything. So.
Wonderful.
We've been watching Hollow Knight.
Uneventful, other than watching Hollow Knight, which is neat.
I'm wondering, for the benefit of our audience, would you be okay with introducing yourself?
All right. So I am an Irish streamer who pretends to be a sloth online. That's what I do. So I play games and, you know, just try and provide a nice kind of chill space for people.
Nice.
So that's it.
Cool.
I think a
we've
few
spoken
people in
quite a bit online, haven't we?
I do believe so.
Yeah, hello. Nice to speak to you in person. Hello.
Hello. How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm really good. Having quite a quiet weekend as well. Like I said, I've only just had my breakfast, and I'm probably about to have my dinner soon. I'm probably going to skip lunch. So,
I did. I've done the same.
Yeah. I feel like there are no rules in lockdown. We can kind of play it as we like. So.
Brilliant.
Pretty
I'm
much.
wondering, we've got a couple of questions for you, Casey. Nothing too steep, don't worry. Would it be alright
no.
if we... wondering
Oh, I'm
if...
being put on the spot.
Sky, do you want to maybe take it away? I know that you had some questions for Casey.
No, I can't. No, I can't do the no. Ah! How about I tell you what? I'll break the ice with a little bit of joke. Hang on. Did you hear the one about the pizza? Never mind, it's too cheesy.
That's okay. That's it. We've won.
Hang on. What about the one about the piece of paper? Never mind, that one's terrible.
In fact, you know what, Casey? What are you currently playing just now?
I've been playing a lot of Curse of the Dead Gods.
Oh.
And was playing a lot of Factorio. Last night I was playing a little Neo 2 as well.
Ah, nice. Yeah, I mind on our chat you had we spoke about Neo 2. How's that coming along?
Oh, that's good. It's got a great, probably one of the best character creators I've ever used in the game. It's really, really good.
Brilliant. Well, I've been playing Hollow Knight. Just yeah.
One of the best games ever, in my humble opinion.
It's fantastic. Team Cherry did a really good job on it, and I cannot wait for Silk Song.
Hopefully by the time Silk Song is out, I actually get around to finishing Hollow Knight. I am terrible for not finishing games, which I think is a quality that a lot of people who play games have, is that we just don't finish them half the time.
Yeah.
Some games are too long now, you know? Like, in the worst possible kind of way. I mean, like, a lot of games are kind of unnecessarily bloated.
It can be, yeah.
Which can sometimes lead to that wee bit of like, well, I've got what I wanted out of the game. Don't really want to be playing it for too much longer. I have other games to play.
Yeah. I have a category on my Steam list which is just called Finish These, and there's some stuff that have been in there since I made the list like 3 years ago. Still haven't done it. Still haven't started a lot of them.
That's okay.
Yeah, we'll get there eventually.
So yeah, go
ahead,
Sky. Go on, Sky.
You go ahead, I.
No, so you know we've got David Paisley on as well. I'm not sure how much crossover there is between Irish gaming influencers and Scottish actors, but the one thing that we've all got in common is unfortunately,
Hollow Knight.
yeah, Hollow Knight, as well as unfortunately some of the kind of transphobic rhetoric that's kind of emanating from the UK at the point. I'm not sure how much you know about what David does, Casey, but obviously there's quite a big fight over here.
I follow David on Twitter. He speaks out really well, incredibly articulate, and does a lot of very good work. So I'm well familiar with David, even though I haven't spoken to him. This is the first time we've ever actually spoken properly. So, hello.
I follow Casey back online, and we're mutual followers. So we've been aware of each other for a while, and I think Casey does a good job of kind of speaking out on the things that are important as well. So, hello, it's really nice to speak to you. Hello.
Thank you.
So I suppose one thing, Casey, when we had our kind of introductory chat, I suppose, we kind of spoke about, and I know that this might be seen as getting pretty serious quite quickly, but like,
go right ahead.
Obviously there's quite an issue at the moment in the UK in regards to kind of transphobic rhetoric and how that's sadly almost emanating from it. And I believe you mentioned that, you know, Ireland was kind of catching a bit of that, as if we hadn't invaded you enough already. You know, the unfortunate kind of instances that, you know, there is kind of like British transphobic rhetoric is spreading into Ireland. I was wondering if you maybe wanted to just touch on that a wee bit, if that's okay.
No, I really don't. but I will, of course. No, there is a lot of things happening with us where a lot of the British transphobic groups are kind of setting up sock puppets, pretending to be in Ireland, and kind of going, oh, this is terrible. How, like, think about Ireland. We've had our GRA. We've got one of the most progressive gender recognition legislation in the entire world. We've had that for, this will be 6 years now, coming up to 6 years. We've had that legislature on the books, and there has been no issues with it. It was, and so they're trying to say, oh, this was snuck in by deception, and it wasn't. It's bullpucky. They're lying through their teeth. It was very well publicized for years. There was a one woman who sued the Irish government, Lydia Foy. And this was mainstream story. People knew what was happening. None of this legislature went through without public knowledge. We've had, huge, it was something that was ongoing for years, and that's. We're kind of faced with a situation now where we have an LGB Alliance Ireland, which is started it was an account started in England. Definitely not suspicious at all. Wink, wink. Trying to claim that there's terrible problems with the Irish gender recognition, and it's not. It's bullpucky. They're talking out their ass. But it's just astroturfing.
Absolutely. David, what's your kind of thoughts on that?
Well, I can only agree. It's nice to hear a different perspective on it, especially given that it feels like it's emanating so much from the UK. I did some analysis on the Irish account actually, and most of their followers are from the UK, and most of them originate in London. So there's this really kind of, and they tend to be a particular type of person as well. It tends to be quite middle-class white people that support this particular form of discrimination. So, I mean, if I was Irish, I'd be quite furious about, about English people stepping into Irish politics to try and kind of manipulate something. But Casey, what's your opinion on that?
There is a lot of anger there, and I think what happened with a couple of years ago, we had our own. We had a referendum on abortion rights in Ireland. We had the repeal the eighth. So the Eighth Amendment of the Irish Constitution banned abortion, and so a lot of Irish feminists were fighting for years to get this overturned, and a lot of trans people as well, because of course, bodily autonomy is extremely important. So what happened was we had a lot of strangely very anti-abortion campaigners pretending to be feminists who were angry over the Irish feminists who were pro-repeal using gender-inclusive language, and there was this at the time a lot of astroturfing from English gender critical types who were kind of saying, trying to directly interfere with Ireland's abortion referendum, and they tried to host talks over here during the repeal effort, and kind of to try and stir up transphobia at the time. And the Irish feminist groups kind of banded together and said, no, not happening. And it turns out that later, just like those same British activists were happily working with the Heritage Foundation from the US. So it's like, by denying TERFs a platform in Ireland, we saved ourselves quite a fight there, because what most people involved suspect was that these talks that they tried to host ahead of the abortion referendum was to try and deliberately cause strife within the Irish feminist community over trans people's inclusion in the conversation. So it was kind of like, kind of not exactly, we know for sure, but you know, the same people have gone over to America on the behest of the Heritage Foundation, we're due to speak in Ireland ahead of our abortion referendum, and you know, basically try and cause strife over trans people's inclusion, and just derail the repeal efforts entirely. So we suspect that they tried to sabotage our abortion rights referendum. So there's still a lot of anger over that, and a lot of like, no, we don't trust you. So, but unfortunately, they're getting traction with a lot of the alt-right kind of COVID denier, QAnon conspiracies that have been popping up in Ireland recently, which is unfortunate.
Never has the phrase astroturfing been more appropriate.
Emphasis on the turf.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I suppose one question I've got to that, and it's kind of been touched on a wee bit by some of our other speakers, and I found it quite interesting when, if you look at the media in the UK as opposed to the media in Ireland, I'm wondering, like, I think one of the reasons why, you know, UK / you know, TERF Island, you know, has this kind of big problem with transphobia is that it's like they kind of have the network via the media. There's a lot of journalists out there that are kind of churning this stuff out. I'm just wondering, is maybe one of the reasons that, you know, Irish feminists didn't listen in the kind of move to repeal the 8th? Was there much in the media about it?
No, there wasn't at the time. I think at least not from the transphobic groups who tried to host meetings. That didn't happen. Didn't get reported much in our media. They were the other side of the coin. Was the kind of the more religious bigots who were granted a platform by our media, which really isn't that much better than the British media. So don't think we're any better.
I can only say some of your commentators sound a wee bit more sensible than ours. But yeah, no, I hear you. I think we're £10 off of 3,000, which is.
I think we might have already passed 3,000. The bar's just the voice crack there was lovely. The bar's just not made it yet.
Okay, so the bar, our donation bar is 3, struggling, and yeah, we are on 3,000. So that's
amazing. Congratulations.
That's awesome.
Thank you everyone who's donated so far.
Yeah, I suppose for Casey and David, who might not know what I'm wearing on camera right now, at 2,000 I was asked to don my Obi-Wan Kenobi costume, so we're getting into so yeah, that's why I'm sitting in Jedi robes at the moment. So
I didn't even notice.
Yeah, it's just casual, my casual wear as well. But I suppose
what is our 3,000?
Yeah,
originally it was as a joke. It was going to be the Jedi robes, but we didn't think we were going to reach it.
Yeah, I mean, we're going to have to think of a different stretch goal now. Any ideas, David, Casey?
Well, something I often do for these kind of events is do a nice reading of something.
Oh,
I've quite often broke out the Poe, so
interesting.
if you'd like that, I could do a rendition of The Raven.
You
by
are
Edgar Allan
more
Poe.
you are
do
more
love The
than
Raven.
welcome to do a rendition of Edgar. In fact, I kind of implore you to at this point, if we can. That'll be our 3,000 stretch goal, and yeah,
Which we've already hit.
which we've already hit. So feel free.
Alrighty. Tell you what, since we have David here, would you like to take the role of the Raven?
I can do. I don't know it by heart, but
You don't
I know
need
what
to
I'm
know
gonna say.
it. All you need to do is when I say quoth the Raven, you say nevermore.
Okay.
So I think this is something that because I'm Irish, I have that lovely kind of nice calm Irish lilt. People really love it when I read poetry. So this is for everybody who's tuning in. Might have a stressful day, and it's been hard on everybody. You've been going near 7.5 hours. That's incredible. So this is something just to help you relax with. So this is The Raven by Edgar Allan Poe. Once upon a midnight dreary, while I pondered weak and weary over many a quaint and curious volume of forgotten lore. While I nodded, nearly napping, suddenly there came a tapping, as of someone gently rapping at my chamber door. "'Tis some visitor," I muttered, tapping at my chamber door. "Only this, and nothing more." Ah, distinctly I remember it was in the bleak December, and each separate dying ember wrought its ghost upon the floor. Eagerly I wished the morrow, vainly I had sought to borrow from my books surcease of sorrow. Sorrow for the lost Lenore, for the rare and radiant maiden whom the angels name Lenore, nameless here forevermore. And the silken, sad, uncertain rustling of each purple curtain thrilled me, filled me with fantastic terrors never felt before, so that now, to still the beating of my heart, I stood repeating, "'Tis some visitor entreating entrance at my chamber door. Some late visitor entreating entrance at my chamber door. This it is, and nothing more." Presently, my soul grew stronger. Hesitating then no longer, "Sir," said I, "or madam, truly your forgiveness I implore. But the fact is I was napping, and so gently you came rapping, and so faintly you came tapping on my chamber door, that I scarce was sure I heard you. Here I opened wide the door, darkness there, and nothing more." Deep into that darkness peering long, I stood there wondering, fearing, dreaming, doubting, dreaming dreams no mortal ever dared to dream before. But the silence was unbroken, and the stillness gave no token, and the only word there spoken was the whispered word, "Lenore." This I whispered, and an echo murmured back the word, "Lenore." Merely this, and nothing more. Back into that chamber turning, all my soul within me burning. Soon again I heard it tapping, somewhat louder than before. "Surely," said I, "surely that is something at my window lattice. Let me see then what there it is, and this mystery explore. Let my heart be still a moment, and this mystery explore. 'Tis the wind, and nothing more." Open here I flung the shutter, when, with many a flirt and flutter, in there stepped a stately raven of the saintly days of yore. Not the least obeisance made he, not a minute stopped or stayed he, but with mine of lord or lady, perched above my chamber door, perched upon a bust of Pallas just above my chamber door, perched and sat, and nothing more. Then this ebony bird beguiling my sad fancy into smiling, by the grave and stern decorum of the countenance it wore. "Though thy crest be shorn and shaven, thou," I said, "art sure no craven, ghastly grim and ancient raven, wandering from the nightly shore. Tell me what thy lordly name is on the night's Plutonian shore." Quoth the raven,
Nevermore.
Much I marvelled this ungainly fowl to hear discourse so plainly, though its answer little meaning, little relevancy bore. For we cannot help agreeing that no living human being ever yet was blessed with seeing bird above his chamber door, bird or beast upon the sculptured bust above his chamber door with such a name as Nevermore. But the raven, sitting lonely on the placid bust, spoke only that one word, as if his soul in that one word he did outpour. Nothing further then he uttered, not a feather then he fluttered, till I scarcely more than muttered, other friends have flown before. On the morrow he will leave me, as my hopes have flown before. Then the bird said,
Nevermore.
Startled at the stillness broken by a reply so aptly spoken, doubtless, said I, what it utters is its only stock and store, caught from some unhappy master, of whom unmerciful disaster followed fast and followed faster, till his songs one burden bore, till the dirges of his hope that melancholy burden bore of nevermore. But the raven, still beguiling all my fancy into smiling, straight a wheeled cushioned seat in front of bird and bust and door. Then upon the velvet sinking I betook myself to linking fancy unto fancy, thinking what this ominous bird of yore, what this grim, ungainly, ghastly, gaunt and ominous bird of yore meant in croaking Nevermore. This I sat engaged in guessing, but no syllable expressing to the fowl whose fiery eyes now burned into my bosom's core. This and more I sat divining, with my head at ease reclining on the cushioned velvet lining with the lamplight gloating over, but whose velvet violet lining with the lamplight gloating over she shall press, nevermore. Then, methought, the air grew denser, perfumed from an unseen censer, swung by seraphim whose footfalls tinkled on the tufted floor. Wretch, I cried, thy God hath lent thee, by these angels he hath sent thee, respite, and nepenthe from my memories of lore. Quaff, oh quaff this kind nepenthe, and forget this lost Lenore, quoth the raven.
Nevermore.
Prophet, said I, thing of evil, prophet still, if bird or devil, whether tempter sent, or whether tempest tossed thee here ashore, desolate yet all undaunted, on this desert land enchanted, on this home by horror haunted, tell me, truly I implore, is there balm in Gilead? Tell me, I implore, quoth the raven.
Nevermore.
Prophet, said I, thing of evil, prophet still, if bird or devil, by that heaven that bends above us, by that God we both adore, tell this soul with sorrow laden, if within the distant Aden it shall clasp a sainted maiden whom the angels name Lenore, clasp a rare and radiant maiden whom the angels name Lenore, quoth the raven.
Nevermore.
Be that word our sign of parting, bird or fiend, I shrieked, upstarting. Get thee back into the tempest and the night's Plutonian shore. Leave no black plume as a token of that lie thy soul hath spoken. Leave my loneliness unbroken. Quit the bust above my door. Take thy beak from out my heart, and take thy form from off my door, quoth the raven.
Nevermore.
And the raven, never flitting, still is sitting on the pallid bust of Pallas just above my chamber door, and his eyes have all the seeming of a demon's that is dreaming, and the lamplight over him streaming throws his shadow on the floor, and my soul from out that shadow that lies floating on the floor shall be lifted nevermore. I hope that was okay.
That was amazing. Well done. That was incredible.
Marvelous.
Sorry, I've got onion rings in my mouth, but I join in.
Oh my gosh. I'm going to forever want to hear Poe in an Irish accent from the room. That was wonderful.
Oh, it just makes sense,
so
doesn't it?
That was fantastic. I did have to ask myself, though, like 3 times, how the fuck did I's life get here all of a sudden?
Yeah. No,
I also
that
have
was...
to admit, the first time I ever heard that poem was from watching The Simpsons. And
I think that's the first for everybody, isn't it?
is that true? Yeah. So yeah, but that was wonderful. I loved it. Thank you.
I've got to ask, was that off the top of your head?
No, I have. I know most of it off by heart, but I still like. I don't like. I couldn't do it without having the thing next to me.
That's no worries. It was incredible nonetheless. It was brilliant.
Thank you so much.
We're gonna have to. We're gonna struggle when we reach 3,500, Sky. How are we gonna top that?
I can do something else if you reach it before my time is up. I don't know how long I'm here for. Is it an hour or two?
You are here for as long as you like to be.
Okay, I can. One of the things that I'm known for is never shutting up. So I can just keep going on. So I don't have a problem there.
David, you can also stay for as long as you like.
Although we know that your dinner is is a priority.
Well, do you know what? I've got to do another. I've committed to another stream thing for LGBT streamers, which I'm doing at 8. So I will duck out fairly soon. That was so special. Thank you for that. I just really thank you for that. I absolutely loved it.
No problem.
My
mum was a poet, so I just love listening to live poetry, and especially when people imbue it with so much. Thank you.
Oh, thank you so much. I'm glad we had some fun with it at least. I stumbled a little though.
Oh no, well it's live, and that just makes it all the more special, I think.
Yeah, and can I just say, can someone please clip like all of that, because it was great, and I want to keep
please.
it.
I was getting right in there. I was getting really involved.
Yeah.
I was like, oh my gosh.
And we had a couple of really nice comments from the stream saying it really fits the atmosphere of Hollow Knight.
It does. I think we're ready for our next speaker as well.
Oh, brilliant.
If everyone's cool with that.
Yeah, let's lock and load.
Casey, to go back to kind of the questions.
Oh yes, you wanted to ask me some questions, and I'm so sorry I didn't.
Where I grill you for information.
Please do.
I was recently doing, we did a bit of research for all of our speakers, and
we know your background.
Yes, you what would have been 2 or 3? When was 2019? What year is it?
2 years.
2 years.
2 years ago, you did an article with Gamer Sutra after doing the Donkey Kong stream with H Bomber Guy. In which you, I'm trying to get the exact quote here. The article is in front of me. Was you wanted to draw? You had you didn't want to be labelled as an activist because you were trying to draw attention to what seemed to be a more systematic issue on how the media tends to frame trans people who speak up about their issues at all.
Yes.
Could you maybe just go into a bit more info about that for our chat?
Yeah, sure. I think sorry. I have spoken out in the past about how I am not an activist, and I don't consider myself to be an activist, and I think that's something that happens a lot, is that any trans person who is in any way visible whatsoever gets labelled as an activist, and I think that something that happened in the aftermath of that, the H-bomb stream, was that people would say YouTuber and streamer H-bomber Guy was joined by such and other people and such and activist Casey Explosion, and it's often used very derisively when being called trans activists, and it's like, no, I'm not an activist. I speak out because I have to, and when people get described as activists, it kind of comes across as if it's some sort of vocational thing, rather than these are just LGBT people or trans people who are speaking out and being vocal. So it kind of it kind of comes across as if they're trying to deperson a lot of trans people by calling them trans activists. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, me and my friends group, we use the phrase because birds of a feather flock together. Keeping with the crow theme, most of us are trans. We use the phrase that we're sometimes forced activists by our social situations. People expect us to be activists for being LGBT, trans, and disabled.
Or at least advocates. We are all unwilling advocates, whether we like it or not.
I'm going to also take the chance to introduce our newest speaker. Hi, Steph. Who we cannot hear currently.
Okay, is that a technical thing on Mand?
No, I also cannot hear Steph if you were there. I'm going to flag up the mods real quick. Can someone just vamp for me while I'm fixing technical issues?
I don't know what vamp means.
Still time. See, the activist versus the activist question, I think sometimes people use the word activist as a pejorative.
Yeah,
I
they
think
really
that's why
do.
People struggle with it. But there's also just being out and visibly LGBT means that there's a political act in that. It's almost a political statement. That's kind of what people are trying to reflect, I think, sometimes. And that label can sometimes be so misused to try and delegitimize someone's argument. So I totally understand anyone wanting to not be associated with being an activist and just wanting to be seen as an advocate for the things that they believe in. I think because it's used to derail a conversation, isn't it?
It is. Very often. Especially when trans people are talked about by those hostile to trans people, they'll say like, "Well, we don't hate trans people. We just hate the trans activists." It's that sort of a thing.
It's kind of getting into that the good trans kind of space, isn't it?
Yeah, they have that horrible acronym that they use, which uses the word activist as if it is a pejorative. It's used as an insult. So I think, stepping away from that is it's a valid choice, I think. But yeah, I think just being visibly LGBT is a form of a political statement, because there was times when there's times right now when it's very hard to be visibly LGBT without facing some sort of discrimination or opposition. So, yeah, it's an interesting question, I think. Activism and what's visibly, like how you define what that is.
Yeah, but it's kind of the same thing that we've heard from homophobic kind of arguments that they don't hate gay people. They're just we disagree with the gay agenda. This sort of, or the gay lobby.
Yeah, often it's the statement is, we don't mind people being LGBT. It's just the loud ones, It's the ones that speak out about it. They're the ones that we object to. So that's a tool that's been used to oppress minority communities across the spectrum.
Absolutely.
Anyone that speaks out, it's like, if you were just quiet about it, we wouldn't have a problem with you. And that's what they want. They want us to be quiet, and that's used, like I say, across the spectrum.
This is a really bad time for me to ask if we can hear Steph yet.
Hello, can you hear me yet?
Yes.
Hello.
Hey! Hi everyone!
Welcome to the stream.
Hi, Steph.
Would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, sure. So hey, my name's Steph. I am a columnist / journalist. And I guess, following on from this conversation, I'm one of those terrible trans rights activists you might have heard about on the internet or in every newspaper column from people who are repeatedly silenced. Hey, how's it all going?
Things are going wonderfully.
I'm going loopy with Hollow Knight. So
I'm going to be honest. So I've been watching you since about 1 o'clock-ish, and I am so impressed that you were able to hold a conversation while playing this game. So Fair play to you for that.
Thanks very much, Steph. It's a learned skill, I'd like to think.
There's a reason he's playing and I'm not.
I thought we were swapping at halftime.
Oh no. unless you're going to give me a lift over the Falkirk.
You're alright.
Oh my god, are you in Falkirk? That's my hometown. Oh my gosh.
Hey, Falkirk's where it's at. It's happening. We've got the Kelpies, so as far as I'm concerned, we already win.
Let's not forget about the Falkirk Wheel, which is probably one of the greatest things ever built in Scotland. Yep. I have so much love for the Falkirk Wheel, it's inappropriate. So
no,
it's a beautiful thing, but it's so slow. It turns. It's so slow.
But
I need like a fairground ride, you know, like swinging around.
whip you around really quickly. Fun fact about the Falkirk Wheel: for one turn, it only takes enough power for 8 kettles being boiled. It's really energy efficient for what it does.
Yeah, it's the counterbalances of the weights at the top and the bottom, right? So that's how it.
Yeah.
Moves itself. Yeah, beautiful. Love it.
Anyway, that's enough about Falkirk.
Yes. Industrial marvels aside, why don't you? Did we just get a £250 donation? Sorry.
Yeah, we did. What on earth? Volds Eris. Thank you so much.
I love that I and I both have to stop and lean into our screens to see what people are doing.
I've got a second monitor that I'm trying to look at, and I can barely see it. It's giving me whiplash coming from the fast-paced Hollow Knight to like get my squint on. That's awesome.
Steph, would you like to kind of? The question that I've been phrasing it kind of strangely to everyone is, how did you get here? What caused you to end up on a 7 hours into a 24-hour Hollow Knight stream?
I mean, you very kindly reached out and asked if I would join, which I was very excited to do so. I jumped on the stream you guys did before for the Thai campaign, and it was a lot of fun. So as soon as you asked if I wanted to come back, I was extremely excited to do so. And it's amazing that you've raised so much in such a short time in the scheme of things. So yeah, great stuff. And thank you for having me on.
Yeah, it's going amazingly. Couldn't be more chuffed, and it's all down to the generosity of the people watching. So again, folks, thank you. Just I suppose to kind of resume the conversation that we were having before Steph, you joined. We're kind of talking about activism and almost the label of being an activist just by the very nature of being a member of the LGBT community. What's your kind of thoughts on that?
I mean, yeah, this is something I've kind of experienced from the side of writing about LGBT rights, and particularly like, you know, both on Twitter, but outside of that as well, there's this kind of weird assumption that because you are a trans non-binary person, as I am, therefore I am too close to the subject to write about it objectively, as opposed to being one of the better informed people to write about it. And I think kind of historically that's always been a thing where minority groups have been seen to be incapable of voicing their own oppression or problems, and actually it's people who don't actually have any connection with it who are far better suited to have that conversation, and then we get kind of sidelined. And that's, I think, part of the same, well, exactly what you're talking about if you actually in any way discuss your own rights, you're automatically an activist, and therefore are too close to the subject to discuss it objectively or approach it objectively. It kind of undermines the legitimacy of the discussion that you're trying to have.
Yeah,
I've never thought of that. Yeah,
and
that is something that happens quite. There was an article, was it a year or two ago, about a certain journalist listserv. So a lot of like that certain trans journalists were gate kept out of journalism because this we don't want these people in here because they're not equipped to talk about these issues in a detached way, and it's kind of that is something that quite literally has happened in the US at least, where trans journalists were gatekept by cis journalists, and it's
it's a real problem, both in terms of trans journalists being kept out of having that discussion, but I mean, when you even look at the kind of press landscape in Scotland right now, excuse me, like what, 90%? In fact, no, way higher than that. 95% of anything you're reading about trans rights, trans equality, GMA reform, it's not written by trans people. It's written by people who are either opposed to it, or maybe people who are speaking on our behalf, which is great to kind of see that allyship, but there's going to be errors and lack of understanding purely because they're not within that community, and that's fine. But when like 95% of what you're reading is coming from people who aren't directly affected by it or who are actively opposed to it, yeah, of course weird misunderstandings are going to become common knowledge, or major things are going to be overlooked. Almost like how the discussion of GRA reform has come to dominate everything around trans people right now in terms of how the press are approaching it. But actually, other issues like healthcare, I would argue, are more important, but they get sidelined a lot of the time because that's not what everyone else wants to talk about. So we don't get as much of an opportunity to have that discussion.
We were talking about something similar with Teddy Hope when they were on. That it always comes down to the bathroom discussion because it's the most clickbaity, outrageousy that certain journalists can use, or like it's the easiest, I guess, entry point to talking about trans stuff for some. Even though, like, you know, you very rarely, unless you're getting LGBT organizations saying it, you very rarely hear about, you know, the statistics. Like the one from Stonewall that's always stuck with me is 1 in 4 trans people in the UK have been or are homeless. But obviously, like the conversation is dominated by other things. David, I'm fully aware that you might have to hop off soon. Am I right?
Yeah, I'm gonna have to pop off and get onto my other stream. I did have one wee question though, which is, what's your advice for allies like myself on how best to handle approaching these issues and to best support the trans community? So for other listeners who are also allies, what would you say?
Oh, so, David, I'm so sorry if there was any part of me that was implying as if like you should not be speaking on this issue, because that's absolutely not what I was saying. Like, I think you've done amazing work, and honestly, I think you've got a perfect approach, which is being supportive. You know, doing the work that you say you're actually doing, and listening to trans people and not talking over them. I mean, I don't know if you can ask any more than that. You know. Yeah, no, you're doing great stuff, man. I really appreciate it.
I'm going to pop off just now. It's been really nice to hear you. It's really nice to connect. It's nice to see you, Casey. I love doing that poem. Thank you so much. Just listening to you. And that's the thing, I think, is just listening to others and letting people have a platform and speak. And that's where the value comes in. And I think there's a lot of fear that people have, and fear is really easily combated when something is known. Because we're afraid of the unknown. So the more that we can give space to trans and non-binary people to tell their stories, that combats a lot of the fear that's in society. So thank you for lending your voice to the stream. It's really great to hear you.
Oh, thank you.
I'm going to get a sandwich before going the next stream.
No worries at all. Thank you so much for joining, David. That was wonderful. Thanks very much for your time.
Thank you so much, David. Maybe you'll get an email from me one day when I re-enter the film industry.
Please feel free to get in touch. All right, take care. Enjoy the next 20 hours ish. Bye, guys.
Yeah. See you later.
Take care. Bye bye.
Take care. Thank you for the hello, Corvus. A friend of mine said hello in the chat.
Ah, brilliant. That was, oh man, I feel we've still got 2 speakers on, like we've got 0 downtime, but that's all the better for it.
That was actor David Pace. What the fuck is my life?
All part of the fun, mate. All part of the fun.
This started a month ago between me and I going, maybe we should do another stream again.
Yeah.
And now we're here. Yeah, on the kind of subject of trans people, telling their stories and stuff. Quite a lot of time, as I've mentioned, I'm a filmmaker and I'm a writer. I've had to deal with even just trying to, or trans or LGBT people even, just trying to kind of insert, you know, maybe this character could have a boyfriend instead of a girlfriend. I often heard the phrase from my peers, that's not the story we're trying to tell. I'm like, what? I'm not saying we have to make a gay rights movie. I just want to make a character gay in the story. But I'm getting, I think it was the moment I brought up LGBT characters, their perception of it suddenly was like, oh, it's an LGBT story. Which is kind of like the fictional version, I feel like, of what you were saying about being a trans activist, Casey.
Yeah. I don't know what I can add to that.
But that's kind of always the way. Yeah, that's not always it. It's like anything outside of the kind of like cis, straight, or heteronormative, or even like white or male-dominated film industry it's a specific niche movie, and it's only for those people. It's like the movie about like the straight couple, that's for everyone. But if there's a gay couple in it, that's only for gay people. And it's kind of, it feels like it's been that way for a long time in terms of even how, like, you know, I remember going to HMV when I was much younger and DVDs were a thing that people still bought, and or even videotapes before that. But you know, the LGBT section would always be its own thing because you couldn't get it too close to the other stuff in case it started contaminating it or like spreading somehow.
Yeah, it's like we're our own genre to ourselves. We're horror films and kind of like.
Thanks very much for the donation, Real Corvus. I appreciate it.
Yeah,
so
thank you.
We're trying to announce every donation that comes in. So I'm trying not to interrupt because we're having such good conversation everywhere else.
Well, I'm gonna step away for 2 minutes because I need to go get some water and things. So I'll be back in a moment.
No problem at all.
Plenty of time to
join
read
us on
messages.
On the hydrate or dihydrate channel.
Okay, we need to hydrate. We are so close. We are less than £200 of 3.5k, which is incredible.
Actually, I think we're ready for our next speaker.
Okay, yeah.
Which I are a little bit nervous about.
We're less than nervous. We're happy. Steph, are you okay to obviously stay on? I mean, you know, you've not been here that long, so please stay on.
We'd love you to stay on, yes.
I would love to stay on. Wait, actually, who's the next speaker? And then I'll make my decision. No, I'm joking. Please let me stay on.
I was waiting on Sky to actually answer you there. Sky, go for it. Or
I want to do the dramatic reveal for chat.
Right, we just
even though we've announced her already.
It's Mary Black, I believe.
It's Mary Black, yeah, it's Mary Black of the S&P. So bring your friends.
Yeah. But kind of speaking back to the point you were saying there, Steph, we'll just continue the conversation. Sorry? Sorry, I'm getting asked to do multiple things. The goal's been hit, so we've reached 3.5, which is incredible. Woo! But back to your point, Steph, that we were chatting about before, a whole host of other things. You know, it's interesting you talk about it's almost like there's this weird perception that like trans issues can only be commented on objectively by people who aren't trans, because there's just too much involvement. Like, it is really, you know, you've really made me think there. I was wondering if you could maybe embellish on it a wee bit, because it almost sounds kind of similar to, you know, when the sort of go-to thing in a lot of like alt-right circles, and a lot of people who, let's just say, hold up the reason and logic banner in a way that, like, you can't get emotional about anything, otherwise you've lost the argument. How does that kind of fit, I suppose, as well?
I mean, that's definitely part of it, for sure. As if, like, first of all, as human beings, we are not emotional creatures, and also being emotional about something somehow means that you do not have a good perspective on it, which is bonkers. Like, I'm emotional about a lot of things I care deeply about, but I could also give you like 50 statistics around it if it came down to it. You know, like, we can care about the things that we have interests in, and that kind of gets overlooked. And I think a lot of this comes down to, it's the same, like, to kind of put it into sort of a kind of lefty right perspective in the UK, right? I mean, I'm thinking back to when Corbyn was leading Labour, and then, you know, the Tories have obviously done an atrocious job when it's come to the NHS. Yeah. But there was like that, I can't remember exactly how it went down, but basically a guy who was in a hospital criticising the Tories for it, and saying, like, it's been like this, it's been like that, we haven't had access to this, everyone's on double shifts. And then, like, someone from the BBC went on and found his Twitter account and was like, oh, he's a Labour activist.
I remember this.
Yeah. So therefore, all of his criticisms about the Tories and how they've been running the NHS, well, obviously that's just activist rhetoric, and we don't need to pay attention to it. And it's like a trick as old as time, and you might maybe forget that maybe the dude is a Labour activist because of the state of the NHS under the Tories. Now, I mean, I'm not the biggest fan of Labour, but, you know, I can still see what they were trying to do there, and just because you support Labour doesn't mean that you don't have, like, a valid position when it comes to healthcare under the Conservative Party. And it's kind of that same deal here, where it's like, if it's something you care about, then anything you're doing around it is furthering your own agenda rather than being a legitimate perspective that should be discussed.
Yeah, no, that's a really good way of putting it. And I suppose, like, as a columnist yourself, you know, what's been your kind of experience in almost charting that territory? And, you know, I mean, I believe I knew you by a different name when you kind of first started appearing as a columnist. Like, what's been the kind of process in that, in terms of, you know, how Scottish media kind of reacted? Have you found that the way you were treated beforehand versus now to be quite different? Sorry if that's not a topic you fancy chatting about.
No, I'm more than happy to. I'm just not sure I fully understand the question. You mean that before I kind of started talking more about what it's like to be a non-binary person, or?
I mean, obviously, you can cover more your sort of, like, personal journey. I'm more than happy for you to do that. I was just more talking about, like, the reaction from the Scottish media. Have you found that? I'd like to hope that there'd been no opportunities denied to you on the basis that you've been that you came out as trans non-binary. But I'm just
wondering. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
No.
Sorry if that was badly phrased.
No, not at all. I was just making sure I understood exactly the question.
No worries.
Not that I'm aware of. Like, I write. I used to work at the National. I don't anymore. I write a column for them, like, as a freelancer.
Yeah, that's fair. And cool. Yeah, no, that's fine.
We're just having a bit of technical difficulties with Mari at the moment.
No worries. Anything that I need to do, or?
Don't think so.
I've returned if you need me to fill some time. I'm full of hot air.
Well, feel free.
So, can I ask about how you ended up with a slot as your decided
Yeah.
animal of choice. Because I'm a ferret, personally. Like, I already know this.
Oh. I did not know that. So the genesis of that kind of was like, I'd been kind of familiar with and kind of on the periphery of a lot of the whole furry thing on Twitter for a while, but never really found it any kind of anything that could would click with me. So I idly asked one time, if I was a furry, what animal would I be? And a friend suggested a two-toed sloth because you already have the boots. Because I often wear the tabby boots, which has like a separate, your big toe is separate from the rest, because they're nice and comfy. And I was like, that's perfect. That's me. And it was just like, it just clicked. Sloth is like, yeah, I can, like, I find a lot of the whole furry thing, it's about what you want to communicate to people. And I'm often like, I'm very tired all of the time, suffer with chronic fatigue and things, but I'm also pretty chill. And the whole sloth persona, it kind of radiates chill vibes. It's kind of like, you know?
Yeah. I'm somewhere between a ferret and a crow. I haven't quite figured it out yet. Mari, can you hear us?
Yes, what conversation have I joined?
So we're talking about personas.
Excellent. Right, I'll catch up.
Would you like to introduce yourself to the chat?
Yeah, sure. My name's Mary, and I am a Member of Parliament for Paisley and Renfrewshire South. And I certainly like to think of myself as a trans ally, so when you asked me along to do this, I thought, perfect. Let's do this. And also I want to get used to Twitch. I've been on it once and it was too scary, so I came off it.
Well, you'll be pleased to hear, Mary, that our initial goal was £500, and we have sailed past all of our stretch goals, and we are literally a couple of quid off at 3,500.
Oh, superb! Brilliant.
So we're going like the clappers, but it's
now that I'm here, watch all the donations stop.
not at all. Not at all.
You better prove her wrong, chat.
Yeah, exactly. That was a challenge, if anything. Throwing down the gauntlet.
I will donate another £5 out of spite now. just for that. If the donate works.
I'm going to do my best not to multitask just now, because I think that's what messed up my sound beforehand, was trying to do too many things.
Yes, I have to answer Hex in our chat, who's like, we got an MP and we're having a furry discussion in the chat. Yes, this is 100%. We've hit 8 hours. Things are going slightly off the rails.
But yeah, we're getting into feral territory now. So, Mari, I suppose it'd be great to ask you a couple of questions. Obviously, there was a kind of central theme for the past couple of speakers that have been talking about LGBT activists, and I say activists, they're LGBT people who are kind of activists by default. Like the very nature of their existence is political. I'm just wondering if you've got anything that you'd kind of like to add on that.
Well, I mean, I totally agree with you. I think you're right. I mean, simply just existing is an act of rebellion in many senses. So I think LGBT people, whether they like it or not, are political a lot of the time. And the only way we can change that is through progress, you know, activism, ironically. So, no, I do. It ticks another box for me, I suppose.
Brilliant. So, yeah, we've got Steph Payton, sorry, Steph, on the line as well. Payton, brilliant. And we're also Casey's in the chat as well, and we've not covered everyone's persona yet, but we can drop that conversation for now. Yeah, so I suppose it'd be great to kind of hear a wee bit more about, like, for those who maybe aren't as familiar with how the UK Parliament works when it comes to legislating. Obviously, there's kind of a big thing at the moment in regards to like word changes in regard to some legislation that I know that has kind of been signed off on. I'm just wondering if you could maybe give us a kind of overview, if that's okay.
Yeah, sure. It's funny when you ask me how does the UK Parliament work.
Yeah.
Was it Disney? No, so the way it works is, you know, just what you see on the telly is on the chamber debating a bit of legislation. It goes to the Lords eventually, where you can add amendments and stuff, and then it's literally called ping pong, the process, right? I thought it was just slang, but it's not. That's its official name.
Oh jeez.
Ping pong between the Lords and the Commons, because basically it just keeps going back and forth until they can agree on certain amendments, and that is the so-called checks and balances. So right now there's a lot of what I would say is dodgy legislation going through. It's, you know, just the number of bills that I've seen passed that you just think, what in the name of God are we doing? Has been unbelievable, and I don't see any sign of that slowing, unfortunately. Especially just now where everything's kind of running on hot air, if you know what I mean, because the world is, of course, in lockdown just now. Parliament's also in lockdown to a sense, so the intensity of all the legislation from Brexit and from just what the Tories are wanting to do is quite enormous, and there's not exactly a great number of bodies there to change it all an awful lot.
And could it possibly be the fact that like our current British government are kind of banking on you know, a lot of us to be concentrating elsewhere, whether it's pandemic or, you know, any other issues, that they can kind of slip this stuff through?
Yeah, no, I think so. The way that I've described it to people is the approach of this government to me seems to be start as many little fires as you can all over the place, and everybody's too busy trying to put out their own fire that they can't realise everything else that's going on behind them. You know, like I think we've seen a sense of that throughout Trump's years in America, where it was just half of the strategy is chaos. And I think that's quite similar in UK politics just now.
Yeah, I remember I was having this conversation with, I think it was my father. He made a brilliant point where it's like, you can never quite handle everything Trump's doing, because, you know, he did something controversial on Monday, and by Tuesday the newspapers were reporting on the thing he did the following day.
Yep, completely.
Is so a kind of planned chaos in the worst possible way?
I know sometimes it's hard to tell it's a very fine line between incompetence and you know, planned chaos, and sometimes I don't know which side they fall on. No, it's definitely the patterns are there, I think.
Right. Yeah.
Sky, do you have any questions?
I'm sorry, I'm a bit overwhelmed. I suppose just like... No, I can't think of anything. I had questions before you got here, and now I'm like, nope.
Right, well, ask me what I want to give what animal I'd be.
Go on, what animal would you be?
Right, so I've thought hard about it, if you can't tell.
Okay.
I'm down to two options.
Okay.
One of them, in fact, no, I'm going to go with this one. I'd just be a dog. Because I wouldn't have to try so hard to kind of regulate my own behaviour and my own mood. I would just be allowed to run about for 5 minutes, tire myself out, nap, eat. Do you know what I mean? Just the simple life. I feel like
Perfect.
I really relate to that.
Someone in the chat said, sounds rough.
For a banter.
Excellent. No, that's that's good. I don't know what animal I'd be. I've no decided yet. I feel
Someone in the chat said lion for you.
A lion? Oh god.
Is this just because of the lion rampant and I'm called AyeforScotland? Is that like if that's the reasoning, fine, but I'm not gonna be one of those guys that's like, I am a wolf. I can do whatever. I'm leader of the pack. It's like people who are starting to call themselves, what is it? There was alpha and
Sigma
now there's
male.
sigma males. That's another thing.
That's a
Ah dear.
All right.
Isn't Sigma male like all of the aggression of the alpha, but like smarter or more sophisticated? Isn't that Sigma male? I'm sure.
I'm sure Sigma males probably think that.
And they're definitely not all libertarians.
But no, I suppose when it comes to kind of LGBT issues in Scotland, Mary, and I know that we didn't want to be saying anything. We're kind of keep the stream a wee bit upbeat. But I'm wondering if you can maybe just tell us a wee bit about your kind of journey into politics in the first place. I know you've kind of been probably asked this to death because you were the youngest MP ever.
Yeah, and I'm now older. I've been overtaken. There's a new baby. I have to say that was one title I was more than happy to pass on.
Good stuff. I'm just wondering if
here's
you could
all the rubbish that's going to get sent your way now.
Here you go. So I'm wondering if maybe you could kind of just chat a wee bit about that because I think it's quite interesting, like your own journey.
Aye, sure. I mean, interesting's one way to look at it. Also, really sad is another. So, like for me, it was in 2011 that I joined the SNP, and it was when we won the election, and they said, right, we're having a referendum, and I remember thinking, oh, now's the time to actually get active. So I went along to the local Yes in Paisley. Turned up and they asked me, do you want to join the SNP? And I was like, aye, go on, and I'll do that. And I was expecting this lovely big welcome party, where I run through and slideshows about here's what we do. I get handed 1,000 leaflets and told to stand at Paisley High Street. So over the next couple of years, that's how I learned everything. Just talking to people, because I mean, you'll remember during the referendum you had some brilliant conversations with people. Aye. Suddenly politics was all right to talk about, and for me, actually, in retrospect, it was also incredibly educational. Because I'd be handing out leaflets, and somebody would come up to me and say, "Right, but what happens to my pension?" And I'd say, "I don't have a clue, but give me your email address and I'll find it for you, and I'll get it back." So I was doing rubbish like that for years, basically just campaigning. And then, of course, we lost the referendum, and that was gut-wrenching. That felt like it sounds mad when I say it, but it genuinely felt like a death, if you know what I mean. Like, I went into grieving for a period. And then I decided, no, I've not done all this work for things just to go back to the way they were. So, right, Mon, we'll put your name in. Because initially, everybody who was asking me to put my name in, I was thinking, what? That's mental, I'm 20. And it was actually the more I spoke to people, the more I thought, oh, actually that's not a good reason alone not to do something. So, put my hat in the ring, and then I won. And now I'm here talking to you, so it's been a whirlwind, to be honest with you.
Brilliant. It's so nice hearing, and I think one of the things that I completely agree with you on the referendum side of things was it was an educational thing in itself, and how what we kind of had was tons of people for the first time starting to really talk politics and kind of enjoy doing it. Obviously, it had a wee bit of its downside. I was unfortunately in China at the time when the results came in, And there was, I mean, it might have actually been a better thing at that point, because I feel like the mood of the country would have just been like, you know, turn to the drink or whatever. But,
what does it say about Scottish politics when you'd rather be in China?
yeah.
I think it's very like refreshing, Mary, to have like you in Parliament, and because I think I kind of started looking at politics initially early at the independence referendum, and then later around the Brexit referendum, unfortunately. And it feels very refreshing to have someone in Parliament who I feel like represents me.
Thank you very much.
And yeah.
I mean, like,
unfortunately, I've always lived just outside your catchment area. I was in Ayr, and now I'm in Glasgow.
Ah, right. You avoiding me?
Oh, definitely not. I have to leave the stream now on an unrelated incident. I'm kidding.
No, it's nice you say that. Thank you, because of course, like when I get elected, I naively probably, but I truly didn't expect the level of attention that I got before the election and after it as well. Like, I remember coming out is it the airport in London when we arrived, and I was buzzing because I was like, it's the first time I flew with it, my folks. We're walking out forgetting our bags, and I'm no kidding, you would have thought that Brad Pitt was walking through the airport. Honest to God, there was just so many flashes. Like, I mean, had I been epileptic, I'd have dropped right there and then, because it was just everywhere, just all these cameras. And like, I remember being like, right, I can get it outside the Parliament. I understand, you know, when we're doing interviews and stuff, but why the hell are they hanging outside the toilets in the airport? What? You know, so it was a definite shock to the system, and with that comes a lot of people that don't support you as much. So it's nice to hear when somebody's complimentary, especially when they're in person and you know that they're real. So thank you.
No problem.
I feel like
I got a...
Sorry.
Oh, go ahead,
I'm just saying. I feel like because we've got Steph on the call as well. We might want to say things are off the record on this stream, eh? But I'm not. I doubt you work like that, Steph.
Oh, definitely not. And as someone who's also from Paisley, just joining in the Paisley gang here, I would never turn one of my own like that. So, you know.
I got a question PM to me. Someone was saying to me, I'm interested to hear what changes she thinks can be implemented into Parliament/law that would make great contributions to help raise LGBT community up and build meaningful equality. So just, you know, a very softball question.
Well, passing GRA reform is the number one thing, and I don't think we should be any less loud about saying that. I think that's the most testing piece of legislation clearly just now, and when you actually look at the detail in it, it is also the most inoffensive piece of legislation. So I think that if we can't even get that passed, then it's, you know, it kind of tells us we're in a sorry situation. So, but hopefully it's gone in the right direction from this point onwards. So I'd definitely say that. UK-wide, God, where to begin? Because see, for me, what's most interesting about all these issues is, see, the minute, like, say for instance I'm invited along to talk about LGBT issues, within 2 questions I already want to start talking about like economics and stuff, because ultimately a lot of the barriers that LGBT people face, and just minorities in general, a lot of that is sort of afflicted upon us by systems. So if we don't talk about all these different systems, then we're not really making any progress in terms of understanding how they are, you know, persecuting particular minorities. So I could talk all night about the legislation aside from Westminster, but particularly not in Scotland. I'd say GRA, definitely.
Steph, Casey, do you guys want to add anything to that?
Just that the comments have now become a bin fire.
No, comments are lovely actually.
We've got a spider in the game actually.
We've got a great community here.
But on Mary's point about like talking about all the things about like being LGBT and how that relates to like economics and housing and all this stuff, it's like there's such a huge discussion to be had there, and it's kind of annoying that like anytime you try and talk about that, almost like within 30 seconds someone's going to be about and the bathrooms though. It's like, oh my god, let it go. I want to talk about these other things that are also really important and need to be chatted about too.
Totally. But I think we're getting there. We are, I mean, considering where we were like a year ago, I think, particularly the SNP, I think, is slowly getting its act together. Which, I mean, I'm not justifying it. You know, I still think that minorities should have support first and foremost. But we're in a better position than we were a year ago, I'd say. But that we need to keep pressing, is my point, basically.
Yeah, something we've kind of discussed with a few other of our speakers is there is disappointingly a very vocal minority who seem to be against stuff like trans rights in Scotland and the UK. And they just happen to be people with stuff like media access, which can make their voices seem a bit louder than they actually are. Yeah.
It's like, I remember my best pal said to me, it's like, this is one of the quotes that in 60 years time I'm going to have it framed somewhere, it's so good. He says, look, see the people on Twitter, they think it's far more important than it actually is. See the people not on Twitter, they don't realise how important it is. And I'm like, that sums it up perfectly. Because like you said, it seems that there's loud voices, but in actual fact, in the real world, there's not at all. But the problem is that if those loud voices online get enough traction, it begins to seep out into the real world. You know, and I think that's kind of where we're at just now, is it's really seeping and we're starting to realise, wait a minute, that a lot of folk talking about this progressive Scotland, what do you actually mean by a progressive Scotland? Because your timeline suggests that we're not talking about the same thing, if you see what I mean. So yeah, it's...
I think that's a really interesting point as well, because I feel like during... I'm going to hark back to the independence referendum and almost the aftermath of the referendum as well. You know, I remember seeing things like, you know, Scotland's kind of top of the table for LGBT rights in Europe, and, you know, we're almost at our best when we're taking the steps that other countries are a bit hesitant over. And I'd hate to think that we're kind of starting to fall back in okay, let's be kind of, you know, conservative with a small c and not make bold decisions. I mean, if you think about stuff like, you know, minimum unit pricing, you know, we're best when we're actually bold about it, you know?
Totally, yeah. I mean, I can only talk from an SNP perspective, right? But certainly, if you look from 2014 onwards, after the big membership boom, the reason that the SNP has the level of support it does, I mean, there's a multitude of factors, but overall, the vast majority of people I talk to, it's because they like these more progressive policies. That's the ones that they notice. And it seems obvious to me that ordinary people are crying out for some real, actual, substantial change. So, why... Basically, what is it that's stopping politicians from clocking onto that? You know, if you're wanting to get the support of the vast majority of people, then deliver for them. So I think, like UK politics-wide, the SNP, who are slightly left of centre, they do their best in that gap that's the left, if you know what I mean. So yeah.
There has definitely been a general I think, global political shift right in recent years, which is a bit concerning. At least it feels that way, obviously, the outside looking in, here in the UK at least. I'm not sure, Casey, if it's the same in Ireland.
Yep.
Okay.
Quite sadly, just today we had a massive riot in Dublin. So, yeah.
Regarding
What was that about?
The far right in Ireland, we had there was a riot because they were protesting lockdown and kind of this. So all of this kind of QAnon kind of thing that's been growing here in Ireland, the sort of anti-mask protests and all this, and the kind of authorities wouldn't do anything about it. So this it's just grown to the point where now we've had this. There was violence today in Grafton Street in Dublin, in our capital.
It's just horrific.
Yeah, there's been a weird
I actually wrote.
Go on, Steph.
Oh, sorry. No, I was saying the column I wrote this week or last week now was actually about exactly this kind of like rise of the far right and globally, and how the thing that's kind of come to define it has been almost like conspiracy theories, like QAnon, and how easily people basically kind of get pulled into that because QAnon isn't like one theory. It kind of eats all theories.
It's kind of a synthesis of pretty much every anti-Semitic trope. Just boiled down. What's fascinating about QAnon specifically is that it kind of crystallized out of what at the time was Pizzagate, which is the conspiracy theory that Hillary Clinton had a child torture dungeon in the basement of a pizza parlor for some reason, and this mad conspiracy theory, this completely, I don't want to say mad, sorry, that's a little ableist. This completely cooked up nonsense conspiracy theory came out because Donald Trump was credibly accused by former contestants on the Miss Teen USA pageant. So, there was for a brief moment in US media there was this stories about Donald Trump having barged in on undressing teens in their locker, in their dressing rooms and things like this, and saying, I like bragging about it on the Howard Stern show. There was audio of him bragging about how he could just barge in and see everything and it's all right because he's the owner of the pageant and things like this. So it came out that Trump was credibly accused by a number of former pageant contestants of inappropriate behavior, and it's kind of like, the dude's a sex pest. And then immediately afterwards, what happened was a lot of the alt-right kind of kooks were they cooked up this Pizzagate conspiracy, so it kind of started to dominate the conversation. If somebody talked about Donald Trump being accused of inappropriate behavior with minors, oh yeah, well, Hillary Clinton has this torture dungeon in the pizza parlor. It's like it's accusing the other of what you are guilty of, and that kind of crystallized into what we see as QAnon now.
I've read
wild that that's. So as you say, it's absolutely wild, isn't it? That like somehow to the QAnoners, the idea of Donald Trump, who is on the record saying these things, it's less credible that he's a sex pest than Hillary Clinton has a child ring underneath a pizza parlor. Like, oh no, that's far more believable somehow than the guy who's on the record being an absolute creep.
I believe it was YouTuber Dan Olsen of Folding Ideas who said QAnon are a group of people who claim to be dedicated to fighting corruption, while by believing in an openly and transparently corrupt hero, or worse to that effect. I watch a lot of YouTube videos.
It's interesting though, because unfortunately, you know, the Scottish Parliament's not really been immune to like anti-mask protesters outside of it. And I remember when I was living in Edinburgh, there was one guy who was very clearly, like, let's just say very clearly not all there. Like, he was going off on one about, he was saying Braveheart stuff, and it's always interesting hearing an American person talk about Braveheart. And you know, he was saying, you know, they may take our like lives, but they'll never take our freedom. And he was giving that speech to a bunch of other people who were like all watching, all kind of nodding along as anti-maskers. So it's unfortunately it's a bit of a problem everywhere.
Yeah, I actually, because Steph, I read your article and it was brilliant. And
thank you.
Not long after, I had a conversation with like a real person. I've met them before, but just what you described there, the Pizzagate. Bill and Melinda are injecting people with microchips through the vaccines. Masks are killing children and they're suppressing it. And like, no matter what I was saying, the reply was like, yeah, but what's the evidence? I'm like, you can't just shout that and think it means something. Like, words are becoming meaningless now.
Internet discourse has really shifted what we consider to be the burden of proof. I'd love to be able to argue on the internet like some people do, where I could just show up and say something completely random, and then other people have to prove that I'm wrong instead of I prove that I'm right. Also, yes, we have Cat.
We have Cat. That's Aoife.
This is what the people want.
Exactly. Can't keep it away. She's been very, very timid today. Normally she's a bit of a poser in the background, but hey. No, it's sorry, I interrupted with Cat.
Never apologise for Cat content.
Actually, I was worrying that you could hear my cat. He's currently jumping at the door trying to open the handle.
I think everybody would adore hearing your cat.
No, you don't understand. He's so shouty. He'll
what's your cat's name?
Sooty. Sooty. Aye, it was the name that he had when we got him. But
nice.
He's like, I don't like cats, right? I have to be honest. I'm a dog person. It's my other half. It's his cat, or her cat rather. And see, when I met him, this cat is a dog. Like, I don't know how else to describe it. You throw something, he chases it and brings it back to you. He's just like it. So he's like, I'm in love with this cat because he's a dog. But yeah, so I've never found another cat that I go on with.
Brilliant.
I desperately need a cat, but my flat won't let me have one. I'm also allergic to them. So.
yeah, right. The struggles.
So am I actually, but my partner made clear there was no choice.
Was it a you or the cat situation?
Oh, it was. It didn't even get that far. I could sense the tone. You know that when you realise that you're the tension in the room. It was one of them moments. Sneezing all over her.
We're being asked, Mary, if you can, if we reach £4,000, if you could do everyone a favour and post a picture of your cat on Twitter. Is that too much of an ask?
Hold on, I'll see. Let's see.
We're using the hashtag Ayequality.
Tell you what, right?
4,000.
Talk amongst yourselves. And I will find the perfect photograph. Cause see the cat, right? he's got that face that like he just permanently looks the way you do when you accidentally switch onto the front camera. You catch it onto yourself and you're horrified. That's just what he looks like all the time.
Magic. There's like sort of is like what do they call it? They say the derpy cats when cats are just like constantly like, all right.
Oh, really? Like see when there's during the summer, because we moved house, and during the summer like we had the windows open and the flies were coming in and stuff, and I thought that finally it will come in handy that we've got a cat. No, he just made pals with all the flies. Like, I watched him, there was a fly in the wall, and he walked right up to the wall, sniffed it, and then sat down beside it just watching it. Like, what is this thing? It doesn't seem like birds. You're just... Something went is wired differently in that cat's head.
Yeah, I mean, like, our two cats, I feel like Phelan's like he is a wee bit like a dog actually, in the way that he's always desperate to go into the close. Just that's fine. Yeah. But like Aoife's small. Aoife's a small wee cat. You can kind of scoop her up in one arm. She hasn't really grown much since she was a baby, and she's approaching 2. And like I just think that she would murder everything if she could. If she wasn't an indoor cat, she would go on a rampage. Like you know, her watching like she watches pigeons from our living room and is like, I'm gonna get you one day. But
sorry. See while this is going on, right?
Aye.
my phone's been lighting up, right? And I looked there and it's the family chat. Right? 'Cause my brother's listening to this.
Oh, brilliant.
Whilst bevying.
Yes!
Hello.
Hi, Mary's brother.
He's text my other half there to say, Mary just misgendered you. So now I have umpteen messages with people talking about how I'm cancelled. So I thought you would like that.
That is
persona and you got cancelled both on the same stream.
Yes.
I'd like
my cat.
I'd like to see Maria. We're so sorry. there was nothing we could have said to prepare you. You would have said no.
I know. You didn't have to tell us that story. Yeah, no, I've got the perfect picture though. So if we get to 4,000, I will share it.
The challenge has been thrown, audience. I think we can totally smash 4,000.
Yeah, we're using the hashtag Ayequality if anyone wants to do any social media stuff. I'm determined to get us trending somehow.
Basically just like keep on sending it to all your pals, and if they say please stop, just send them it again. just keep going.
Oh.
The cat Umberto is called Sooty. At least
how?
Quick question: is that as in sooty and sweep?
Yeah, cause he's black and white.
Aww.
So he's sooty. But I see when I'm bored, I'll do experiments with him where I'll just sit and like shout at the side of his face, going booty, cootie, looty, sooty, and he only responds to sooty. So it's definitely his name.
We just got a lovely donation from someone calling themselves Iron Brew, with I spelled as AyeforScotland I.
Speaking of which, I need an iron brew.
See, I'm gonna try and stick with the water for as long as I can. What? Oh yeah, our cats also answer to babies or beans, because we like my partner Jessica, she tends to call both of them at once, and they'll follow her without a second hesitation. They will race up the stairs, and they actually do try and race us up the stairs as well. Like they really go for it.
Yeah. So, sometimes through the stairs, I'll start boxing with Sooty.
Yeah, that's the best. They like it when they can like I think Aoife does that with the kitchen chair. She kind of goes round the side and bats aggressively.
I mean, I should say he misses every time, but he tries, and that's what's important.
Aye. Yeah,
My,
I don't mind being...
one of my partners has a cat that one of my partners has a cat, and this cat is called Cherry. To emphasise, the name was with the cat when they got them from the rescue place, and this cat is beautiful to look at, but is the dumbest creature on earth, and like, does not respond to her name, and will just stare into the distance at any given moment. And what I really love about this cat though is that she'll sit and like if you've ever seen the thing where birds like cats chitter out the window at like birds they can see. Yeah, but she's like an indoor cat, but sometimes my partner will take them out on like a leash, and the cat will just literally lie down on the ground in like abject fear. And it's like screaming to be like, I want to be out with the birds, and then you give them the opportunity and like, no, I have nothing but regrets. Take me back inside.
Yeah. What colour's the cat?
Okay, she is a beautiful cat. She's like a kind of charcoal grey.
Oh,
like
nice.
She looks like maybe there's a bit of wildcat in her as well. Got like the round face, which is lovely. Yeah, nice cat. Really dumb, nice. But lovely.
Casey, do you have any pets? Are you joining the Team Cat or not Team Cat with me?
Oh, finally I was able to beat that guy. You just got a...
show us your cat.
Show us your cat.
Sorry, I was half paying attention. Was it? I have a little dog. I don't know if you've seen pictures of Kiki before.
Oh, Kiki the dog.
Yes.
Amazing.
Doesn't your dog have a Twitter to some extent?
Yeah, at Kiki Doglet. So there's some pictures of her on there if you want to see.
This should just turn into a pet stream. You know, that could be the thing.
Everybody's here for pets. Why not?
I'll throw it in the chat for our audience.
I'm just about to text my brother to tell him I will share the picture of his dog if he donates.
Brilliant.
He's got a lovely wee dog.
Oh, nice. Well, we'd be more than happy to see the dog too.
And the donation.
What's the wee thing? Sorry, I'm getting someone in the chat saying, what's the wee thing floating behind me? Are you sure it's not me?
In the game.
Oh, right. Sorry. That shows how much attention I'm paying. The wee thing is called the Grim Child, and I need to go and take it places in order to...
It's actually me. I'm the Grim Child.
In order to harvest fire so I can fight a boss. It's very... Yeah. On the other hand, we might actually, if I'm able to do this properly, we might just be able to have a cat cam. So we actually do have Aoife, who is currently... I'll move the mic out of the way. She's sitting in her bed and just being a little ball. She's holding both her feet, which is quite cute. So there, everyone, feast your eyes.
Also, just as an aside to that, but I think Grimchild is a great name for a cat, and if I ever got one,
I agree.
Top of the list. Actually, one of my favorite moments from like the NDMF back in 2014 was just like whenever we could get basically what was like hashtag Pets for Yes trending, and it was just an endless amount of like dogs and cats wearing yes badges, and bringing it back around to that again. That was great. More of that for the next referendum, whenever that shall be.
Soon. This year, I believe, or very soon.
Please tell me that's not a question.
No, it's not a question at all. Cool. So I'm just trying to remember what to do in the game now.
I'm trying to come up with any more questions to get us slightly back towards the topic of LGBT representation. So, right, I am being asked in chat to let people know what I'm wearing. I think a couple of you who are speaking just now might know, but I think our stretch goal for like 2000 was for me to dress up in Obi-Wan Kenobi Jedi robes,
and that's what I'm wearing. It's not new loungewear that I've decided to invest in.
Was it Obi-Wan Kenobi? What was Obi-Wan Kenobi 2000?
What?
Was it Obi-Wan Kenobi?
Yeah,
was
Obi-Wan Kenobi was
yeah.
£2,000 goal, and we smashed the hell out of that to the point where now we're almost approaching double. So.
Where you put on 2 Obi-Wan Kenobi costumes.
No, we said we'd try and go for like sexy Obi-Wan, and you know I took,
and then you took the robe off. And,
yeah,
and
I took the robe off. I took the brown robe off that he wears. But hey, if we can get Ewan McGregor on the stream, that'll be class. Let's just pound him. I mean, he's probably somewhere in California, but we could just message him.
All Scottish people know each other. It shouldn't be that hard. There's what, 4 of us here. We should have the Venn diagram.
So someone in the chat just said 4K's Yoda, which isn't happening. And we had a fantastic rendition of some Edgar Allan Poe.
Does Ewan McGregor even have a Twitter page? I can't at him.
I don't think he does.
No.
Damn.
To be honest, he's more sensible than all of us then.
Yeah. Oh god, I just got followed by Mary Black there, and I need to apologize in advance.
Thanks for the follow, Josh. And DreamCon.
This is the most multitasking that I can do. So I realised that don't touch anything on the computer, so I went on my phone for a second, and I found you. Because I've spent the last 3 years trying to clean up my Twitter, right? Right, I'll tell you what happened. So, see, and when I became a candidate, and the Daily Record had all my tweets.
Oh,
right.
This is my favourite thing in the world.
Right. I laugh about it now, but at the time, oh god, it was horrible.
It's the best thing in the world.
You don't understand. See, coming from like my mum's got 13 brothers and sisters, right? So spot the Irish Catholics, and they're all Celtic fans. So the minute that I was getting portrayed as like this, like it was insinuated that I was a very bigoted Rangers supporter. Oh my god!
Oh god!
The pelters that I was getting. So basically, what had happened was at the start of the campaign, it got so intense that somebody was like, "Look, I'll help you. Just give me your details, and I'll sift through all the crap and get rid of all the abuse and stuff." So I was like, "Right, okay, go and do that." No. What I didn't appreciate at the time was this person was what now would be classed as a boomer. And their policy was everybody who followed me, they followed them back, right?
Oh.
So, by the time I got my Twitter back, I was like, oh, wow, this is different.
Yeah. I can imagine your news feed is completely different.
So, yeah, for a long time I've not trusted my own timeline. So I've spent 2 years, I've unfollowed about 3,000 people. So that's me. I'm getting quality on my timeline now, Casey.
Alright, I'm gonna post all loads of furry art and just see how quickly I can get you to unfollow.
To be fair though, Mary, like when you tweeted maths is shite, I think it made you the most relatable candidate that year.
I was going to ask, what's your opinion on maths? Because we've had to talk about maths a few times on this stream.
Truly hasn't changed. Both my parents met as maths teachers. So, and of course, neither of them had seen my Twitter account before the Daily Record had published everything. So that was an interesting morning. You know, and when did you write this? And why? What was going on? Nothing. Like, the thing is, I do remember tweeting it. I was sitting in a double period of maths, and it just struck me. And I was like, truly, there is no other way to put this. I'm just
you know,
posting it.
I absolutely loved that tweet before. Now knowing the context that the parents are maths teachers is the best. Oh, it's incredible.
Yep. Oh,
Thank you
it
for
was a
sharing
difficult few days.
in the doghouse for a wee bit.
Oh, I had to go to mass. I had to go to... Lots of things happened that week.
Oh, man. Saying every time that the maths chat gets brought up, it just seems to be a recurring chat. Is maths talk regular here by a user by user Titsmageddon? Is maths talk regular here? Well, according to Sky, apparently all gay people are bad at maths. I don't know how true that is.
I'm pretty
I'm
sure
gonna-
that I wasn't the problem.
I'm just going to pop in and say that Alan Turing might disagree a little bit.
yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, he's got you there.
That one.
So they've got you there. No, that's. Anyway,
Well, I might have to head off for a little.
That's-
It's gonna grab some din-dins and maybe chill out for a little while. But I will be back if you want me.
We would love. To
we
have
would
you
love
back.
to.
One last question before you
Please,
head off.
please go. I just got heads up that dinner's nearly ready, so I've got a few minutes yet.
How are you finding Factorio?
Oh, I love Factorial. It's wonderful. I was playing that back when it was in early access, and I got it like a couple of years ago. And I think the only reason not the only reason. One of the reasons why I picked it back up again recently was there's another game came out called Dyson Sphere Project, or is it Program? Is it Dyson Sphere Program or Project? Dyson Sphere something with a P.
Okay.
And
I looked at Dyson Sphere and then remembered that that's the name of a Hoover.
yeah, but I looked at this and it was like immediately, ooh, this reminds me of Factorio. Gotta play some more Factorio. So it's kind of like I did the same thing with Satisfactory. When that came out, I was like, ooh, this looks like Factorio. I have to play more Factorio now. So that's kind of the reasoning behind it. But Factorio is a good game, and it's a classic for a reason. And I think it's got a fantastic art style. I love that, like a lot of the games that have kind of taken inspiration from it have come across as it's like Factorio but in 3D. And it's the original the 2D art style. Just I love it so much. I have a lot of fondness where things have this really intricate sprite work where you've got like, it reminds me of something that would have been out years and years ago, but like back in the Amiga days, and it's kind of like if that kind of 16-bit art style had kept evolving, that's what Factorio looks like. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yes.
It does.
So I also there is a free demo of Factorio on Steam. Go check it out. It's amazing. I would highly recommend. If it's a fun game, and there's a peaceful mode as well. So while there is combat in it, if you don't like the combat, you can just turn that off. There's no need for any combat at all. Though I do like the combat. So it's a great little game where you just make factories where like stuff just piles up, and you're building like conveyor belts, and it turns into big piles of like spaghetti where this, and you don't even know how is this factory working anymore. I don't remember where this came from. Wait, what why is this spitting out? What have I done? Oh no, I've tried to untangle something. Oh no, it's chaos. I love the chaos of it. It's so much fun. So I'd highly recommend checking out Factorio.
Awesome. I'll need to check that out. We'll let you go and grab your dinner. Hope it's nice.
No problem. We get some fish and chips, so that's good.
Nice.
Oh, that sounds good.
Can't go wrong.
No, you can't.
Well,
But,
it's lovely to speak to you, and if you want to come back on later, you are more than welcome.
I shall do. But this is why I seem like I'm a pretty good influencer in terms of what I do for the video games in general. I can talk if I like something, I can talk very passionately about it, and I think that's.
You have been speaking a bit on your Twitter about how you had a rule where you didn't want to. Also, my roommate just donated. Hi, Jack.
Hello, Jack. How are you doing? Thanks for the £10. It's really appreciated.
You were talking about how you tried to go into this year with a rule of not picking up too many new games. I had a similar rule until you tweeted about Disco Elysium. And then I went and bought Disco Elysium.
Well, that is probably one of the best games in the last decade. You will not go wrong with that.
And now I'm trying to fight off the urge to also buy. I think it's Ghost Runner.
I've only played a few bits of the demo of that, and I wasn't feeling very well at the time, so I didn't give it much of a go. So that's not one that I can vouch for. So you're safe. You're safe there. You can't blame me for that purchase, but I heard it's quite good.
No, that's fantastic. Anyway, go and enjoy your fish and chips, and we'll maybe see you later.
Take care, and thanks for having me. It's lovely to say hi to Mary. I know you've been a very very vocal advocate as well. I've seen some of your speeches as well. You're fantastic.
Thank you, cheers. I appreciate that.
No problem.
Hopefully your Twitter timeline is the same.
Oh no, go take a look. I've posted some lovely furry art just for you.
The posting has already begun.
Thanks.
It's the most cursed stream.
Here.
Steph, Mary, I mean, I'm not sure how often the pair of you are you particular? Do you play video games or do you consume other books or whatever?
Steph, you go first, because I could go on for ages. Once I start.
Is that true, or are you just trying to prepare an answer in the background?
No, genuinely, like, I've got one game that I'm obsessed with just now. Red Dead Redemption.
Oh,
online.
magic.
Oh, nice. Okay.
And see, after a day of work, just going online and shooting things.
Cathartic experience.
I can't tell you. It's just great. And then, it's even the days that I want something quiet, like I can just go and get my herbs. Me and my horse, we can just go out and bond.
Yeah, just get up into the mountains, enjoy the view.
And I tell you what, some of the views in the game are bloody beautiful, right? Like, see at the start of lockdown, I would put on Red Dead Redemption, climb a hill and be like, do you know what, I feel like it. I went for a walk there. That's great. I feel like I've had fresh air. So I'm obsessed with that.
No, that's brilliant. Steph, what about yourself?
It's a great game. Yeah, no, I'm very, very big gamer. I've actually been playing Dishonored 2 again recently.
Oh, nice.
And going for a platinum run on it. So I just finished my all stealth, no kills run about 10 minutes before I jumped onto the stream.
Oh,
so it's like, yes! Right. So, and then I'll go back and do it again. So I like to platinum games that I particularly enjoy. I think my most proud one was like Assassin's Creed Odyssey, and I can tell you that took some time because that is a big game, a very big game.
Behemoth. Thanks very much, Finlay, for donating there.
You and I play Dishonored very differently. I crave chaos. The chat Mary, the chat wants
Mm-hmm.
to know what horse you've got in Red Dead Online.
Oh, the actual type or
Yes.
her name? Because I
Both.
mean, I don't go by brands. I've got Grace. She is, she's the one that starts with a K. That's all I can tell you. Because the other thing I should point out is that when I'm playing Red Dead, it's on the telly in the living room, and I'm blind, and the writing is so small on it. So sometimes I just make up words for things. Because I'm like, starts with a V. I'll do it. So I've got Grace, and me and her have had great adventures together. I accidentally left her on the train track while I was in my satchel, and the train hit her, so she fell out with me. She is currently recuperating in the stables, and so the alternate horse is Geraint, and he's lovely, a bit clumsy. We're getting to know each other.
Mary, I didn't know you have a horse.
Yeah. Oh, he's beautiful. Like, and I've even got a wee white moustache on him. It's great.
We're talking Red Dead Redemption at the moment.
And it's like,
would you-
it was the moment that I realised that I would happily spend 48 hours playing that game straight so that I can get the 3 gold bars necessary to give my horse a moustache. Like,
Yes.
priorities in life, eh?
Would you like to introduce yourself?
As in myself.
Yes. Sorry.
Yes. So, my name is Sarah Chung. I'm the lesbian campaign coordinator or the lesbian officer. Depending on what OFI wants to give me some sort of name. Either way, I'm the lesbian officer of Out for Independence, the national, the official national affiliate of the SNP's LGBT wing. And yeah, I decided to just come along to this chat because one, not only to just basically show my support for this really good 24-hour stream. The Ayequality Network has been quite, is quite close to my heart and everything else. And also because I'm also a big gaming nerd. I watch streamers play Hollow Knight. And yeah, this is sort of like my normal, I guess in normal lockdown mode, whenever I want to become a hermit, I will basically just watch people on Twitch and just basically just interact with them on chat. So
I was going to say,
yeah.
do you watch any good Hollow Knight streamers?
Well, there is one, but I think he's actually on. I think he's sort of like put himself on sick leave, mostly because of the effects of the pandemic and lockdown, which is understandable, to be honest. He has actually done everything on Hollow Knight. He's got all the trinkets. He's done this on like a super hard mode. I've lost track on what he has done because I was away for about a week. I think I was dealing with work stuff and OFI stuff, and then I just came back and was like, whoa, which stage are you? Somehow you're now actually getting your backside beat by this female version of Hollow Knight. The one with the needle.
Yes,
the needle.
Hornet.
Yes, that one.
Hornet's
And he has
a fan
died
favourite.
by 24 times.
Well, I'm really hoping that it's not 24 times for me, although this guy is being a pain. Thank you. Cool, he's dealt with. We're all good. We're all good. We're fine.
Oh, well, he's fine. He's easy enough.
Oh, right,
You just
okay.
need to wait for Hornet. There we go. Sorry, this is the inner nerd coming out of me right now. So yeah, I did have a busy. So forgive me if I'm drinking a bit of soup. It's just I was able to eat solids, but it's just like I think I may have a kidney infection.
Oh. I hope you're okay.
I'm okay. I mean, I did Tai Chi earlier before. Mari,
Yeah,
I was
how
about
did
to
that
invite
go?
you for that, but I couldn't get through to you.
For the Tai Chi?
Yeah.
Oh god, can you imagine? That wouldn't be a pretty sight for anyone to see. I've never been able to touch my toes, like.
Yeah, so we had it's just because like Chinese New Year came upon the 15th, and it was during LGBT History Month, and I thought, well, why not actually show a bit of my culture out to people? Because normally, whenever we have like a new lunar calendar New Year, we just go out and eat and then drink a lot, as what normal Scots people do. But I just thought that, well, what is the safest way? And because the other one was, okay, let's go and make your own paper dragon. How many times will I actually cut my fingers with making my own paper lantern or dragon? So I thought that I might as well just do a Tai Chi thing. So it was a bit of a success. In fact, actually, it was a massive success that we might do it again sometime. So you're getting invited. You're not getting pulled out.
No, that's
So,
brilliant. Sky.
Sarah, I was just wondering if I could ask, and if you explained a bit more about what Out for Independence is and kind of what you guys do.
Yeah. So Out for Independence is basically a political action group in order to make sure that we represent all members of the LGBTQIA+ community, and no one is excluded. But obviously, like when I came in, I also made a personal promise, and I did actually set it in some newsletters, which fortunately did not actually go out to each and every member, from what I'm hearing. That I want to celebrate also the diversity within our within our community, because it's not that you. Normally, I've not been, ever since the pandemic started, I've not been aware of the color of my skin. I'm mostly just someone who is basically just going like, okay, right, I just only want to go to work, pay my bills, go home, just play some games, and I don't care. But ever since when the pandemic came about, I had people saying a lot of racial stuff at me, saying that go home with your coronavirus, everything else and whatsoever, and that it just highlights over to me that I just realized I should not actually take this. Yeah, that's true, Sharko Quinn. And it's also the same, and that's when I got involved with the BAME network. And when I'm hearing all these similar stories about it, I just realized that actually there needs to be representation, as in BAME representation in the LGBTQ+ network, especially amongst our SMP card holders. But also how I see it in, sorry, also for all diversities in Scotland as well, all communities in Scotland, because this is what we want in an independent Scotland. In independent Scotland, you're not just only trying to appeal to the SMP card holders, you're also trying to show that, hey, this is the future that we can have, and all that kind of stuff. And I would love that racism can actually be gone, and also casual racism. It's just, yeah, I knew the fight that I was getting in. So yeah, so basically representation for everyone. And basically fighting for that equality, that vision in independent Scotland. Did I phrase that very well?
No, here, as far as I'm concerned. I mean, I don't, like, what's the point in an independent Scotland if it doesn't bring all of us, you know?
No, and yeah, that's true. And the reason why I said this, and I did say it over to Mari at the Christmas quiz with her partner, that so I actually came from Northern Ireland, so you can imagine about the equality rights there. I only became politically aware about certain things around in 2013, and that was after, funny enough, that was after I went to an emergency anti-racism rally outside Belfast City Hall, because did we hit our goal?
We hit our goal?
We just hit £4,000.
Mary,
Yes!
Which unfortunately means,
Hashtag
Mary,
equality.
we expect dog and cat pictures.
Right, I have just finished drafting up a tweet of my brother's dog, so I'll be with you in another 20 minutes.
Also, It's nowhere near as amazing as cat and dog, but I've also started a poll because I don't know what to get for dinner. Chat, please vote amongst yourselves while we're talking.
Yeah, this is why I love Twitch, because sometimes it's just that interaction right there. It's just like, should I get pizza or should I get this? I got like chicken soup because that's the only thing I can actually swallow at the moment, and that's not a good word actually. I should.
Phrasing.
Phrasing. Yes.
I tell you, no one was thinking that.
I just, yeah. So I, in 2013, I don't want to get onto this whole sidetrack and then hijack the whole entire stream. I guess, for me, around that time, it was an anti-racism rally organised by some members from Queen's University, Belfast. And this was in response to the abhorrent, and I would say it is racist, but people will probably categorize it as casual racism. But basically, it was talking about the DUP and the UUP's blatant disregard on the MLA at the time, which is Anna Lowe from the Alliance Party, and they basically constantly attacked her. I mean, around that time, it was also the time when the 12th of July was coming up. So the day before the 12th of July, we had these bonfires. So her face was on these bonfires saying Anna Lowe was also at my dog and everything else. So I just knew that this is not what I want. This is not what it is. And you bet that there were a lot of people that came out in protest about it. And also, this was also in protest with the former First Minister, Peter Robinson, because he basically kind of went out and said, no, I defend this minister. He has a right to say this. And plus, basically this minister was saying about how Islam is satanic and everything else and whatsoever. This was 2013, folks. This was 2013. And I just graduated. And he kind of just went like, I also, I don't trust Islam. I don't trust this, but I trust them going to the shops. So everyone, including myself, we kind of just took each and every Tesco, Sainsbury's, trolley, parked it up in front of City Hall, and left it there, saying like, "We're here to do your shopping for you," and obviously had to apologize, but unfortunately it led to Anna Lowe having to step back. So it was one of my awakening moments. And then around 2014 I got involved with the LGBTQ community in Belfast. And we were trying our best to actually try and get same-sex marriage through. And I'm still really, really baffled at how same-sex marriage finally came through after being dragged kicking and screaming through Parliament and everything else and whatsoever. Now, I do want a dissociation from the Westminster Parliament, but this was only one of the few things that it actually brought forward. But there's still that resistance right there, and I still see it in some of the communications that I see from others. So yeah, and I'm starting to see that sort of behavior unfortunately, and I have to say this, in some of our in the independence camp, because now somehow we are actually being told, and especially the trans community, to stay silent until we achieve independence. And it's just like, well, that's not going to be, you're falling into that pit. That's the same thing what I've seen from other people saying over to Anna Lowe, oh, be quiet until we sort this out. And it's like, you're never going to sort this out. So if you want to so obviously we're for an independent Scotland, but we want to make sure that it's done correctly. And you can't just tell people like me, as a Chinese person from an ethnic minority, like my sister-in-law, who is currently undergoing transition at the moment, like everyone else, you cannot just do that. We need, you know, there's a reason why we want to break away from the Westminster government system, because it's it's not equal for all. But if we just continue to just ignore things and whatsoever, etc., and just fight for independence, then what is the point of that?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's my thing, and I'm going to drink this soup.
Sarah,
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
so sorry, because see, in the middle of all that, like I tuned in and you were talking about something, of course, very serious. Right after I've been looking at photos of my cat to send, so I came at the real wrong time. I tweeted as you were speaking about something ridiculous, so I'm sorry.
It's fine. It's okay anyway.
Because my other half is texting me right now saying, like, because I had to get her approval of the pictures to put up. And I've just had, oh no, it's her child, you see. And I've just had umpteen texts from her saying if anyone is mean, she will hunt them down. And she asked if I would read out the Liam Neeson speech, but I think that's a tad much. But yes,
Yeah.
thank you everyone, £4,000. Yeah.
That's
£4,000.
absolutely incredible. And a
Thank
special
you.
thank you to Hex, who donated a considerable amount there.
Yes, thank you so
Yeah.
much, Hex.
Nice one, Hex.
You need to update the bar, I guess.
Oh
and
yeah, shit! I need to update the bar.
Do we go straight to 5,000?
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's update to 5,000 and hopefully we get there.
Right, if we reach 5,000, Mario will post another cat picture. No, I'm joking.
I don't know what we'll do.
I would have held back a couple, I'd have known that was the plan.
I was gonna say unfortunately we're gonna exploit your cat until the end of the stream.
I don't know what we can do for 5,000.
I'm gonna go lie down, okay?
If anyone has any suggestions, both in the on the stream here or in the chat.
Well, I'm gonna
If we
have
reach
to.
5,000, Mary Black sings.
Well, I was actually just going to ask if I could go and get dinner.
That would be quite alright. I'm currently ordering a pizza.
Oh,
That's more than all right, Mary. Thank you so much for your time and for
no, thank you.
thanks for exposing your persona and talking about your cat.
Please let your cat know that the chat loves them.
He doesn't. I don't think he understands me. Never mind words. But I'll try my best. No, thanks very much, everybody.
No, that's brilliant, Mary. Thank you so much for taking some of the time
cheers.
to
Thanks,
join.
guys.
See you later.
Right, see you later. Bye, folks.
Bye.
Thanks, Mary. Bye-bye. Yeah, guys, I'm probably I'll bounce it as well because I feel like I've been here for quite some time now and don't want to be taking up any more of your time in that regard. But I would say, in response to what you were saying, Suzanne, is that yeah, it's something I found really. Sorry, Sarah. Sarah. God, I'm so sorry. I completely misheard that. Your name there?
Okay, I've been called Susan, and that was by my headmistress in Northern Ireland. So yeah.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I just completely mispicked up on that one. But yeah, this is exactly one of the things I find incredibly frustrating about how discussions are taking place in the independence movement just now about exactly what you're saying. Like, what's the point of going independent if we're just going to bring over all of the same crap baggage that is at Westminster just now, with people not wanting to talk about, like, even like, you know, this whole kind of fake culture war stuff of like Britain's imperial past. It's like Scotland has that too. We have to have that conversation, and there's an element that kind of wants to explain away Scotland's role in it, or push back on any kind of like minority right that they see is getting in the way of independence. It's like that's just not the point of what we're kind of aiming to do.
Yeah, I don't understand the position of getting in the way. If anything, it's like for me and how I kind of view independence, I almost see it as the natural progression more than anything. You know, it's.
Yeah, I think it's just because there's, you know, it's this whole being, what is this thing? I'm going to actually just say it, like, wish for indie. I know I've been in Scotland for about 13 years, but there's some slang that I don't understand half of what everyone's saying. What is wish being?
Oh, wished is Scots for be quiet. So it's like wished for indie is just keep your mouth shut until after independence.
You're joking me.
Yeah, and it is.
No.
That's the sad thing is that that's just like, it's just nonsense at the end of the day.
It is,
like that's
like,
Yeah.
Because I'm going to be honest here, and I'll just say it. I'm so sorry. Let me lie down in a much more comfortable position. I'm sorry. I'm just like quite. Yeah. So. I will say this in a cross-party conversation that I had. It was hosted by LGBT Tories, but I did actually say that there's always going to be something in the horizon, whether it be a Brexit, whether it be a trade deal, whether it be it on something. But if you put it underneath the carpet for so long, it's going to be, you know, it will pop up and it will explode. And what happened as a result of it? We got Black Lives Matter, and of course, and I said this before. I would not, and it's a sad reality. I believe that we will have another Black Lives Matter march again because it's not been addressed. And Kitty.
Yeah, we have a cat on stream.
Kitty, Kitty doesn't like you.
No, he's.
I like how I went from serious to cat.
Yeah, I do apologise. There's only, yeah, it's just Phelan being a menace. I do apologise. we give the cats Irish and Gaelic names. So yeah, we've got Aoife and Phelan.
Yeah, the amount of time.
Yeah, on that. Oh, sorry guys, I'm just going to bounce it out. So I'll leave it to you. Continue on this conversation. Thank you so much for having me on. It was absolutely lovely.
Thank you very much, Steph. Have a fantastic.
Before you go, Steph, is there any social media or anything that you want to plug to the chat?
I mean, if you want to follow me, it's Stephen Payton 134 on Twitter. But that's it. That's all I've got. But yeah, good luck. And I'm going to now go onto Twitter and look at a photo of Mary's cat because that's.
Yeah.
This is it. We've done it.
Is this the good? Is the good stuff?
Yeah, exactly. But anyway, thanks very much, everyone, and chat to you all soon.
Thanks, Steph.
Nice
Catch you in a
to talk to
bit.
you, Steph.
Bye.